Hey guys, this is Frank Yecker, and you're listening to Submission Radio.
Hey, this is Rich Franklin.
What's up, everybody? This is Chris Lieben. This is Diego Sanchez. Randy Couture.
Alistair Overeem.
Hi, this is Stephen Bonner.
This is Don Fry.
Hey, I'm Phil, Mr. Wonderful Davis.
TJ Dillashaw.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Welcome to episode 114 of Submission Radio. It's Wednesday, the 8th of February. Dennis Graf here with Kasper Rozalowski with another fun show leading into UFC 208 this weekend. Cass, another pay-per-view coming up, UFC pay-per-view, and fans are getting excited.
Fans are getting excited. The boys are back with another spicy episode. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. We have a lot of awesome and sexy guests to speak to. The first cab off the rank today will be Ryan Bader. There's a lot to discuss there. I mean, the man is essentially Bellator bound. I want to find out, is the contract signed? Is he a part of the Bellator roster? There's a lot of questions to ask, and hopefully we'll be getting the answers. TJ Dillashaw, the man is crazy busy these days. He's training. He's filming tough. It has been very hard to track the man down and get him on the show, but we finally managed to do it. He will be joining us right after Ryan Bader. I'm very excited. There's a lot to talk about there. Dan Kelly is fighting the biggest fight of his life at UFC 209. The man faces Rashad Evans. I'm so excited about this fight, and I'm so excited to speak to Dan about that. Tony Ferguson, El Kukui himself. It's been a while since we had Tony on the show, but I mean, he's fighting Khabib UFC 209 as well. There's so much to discuss there. Conor McGregor, the interim title, so many things. And then, to get everybody excited about UFC 208, you mentioned this, Dennis. 208 is coming this weekend. We've got Robin Black to discuss a whole bunch of things about that card, specifically Anderson Silva versus Derek Brunson, Tim Boesch and Jacare. I mean, what's going on with Jacare these days? And, of course, the main event, Holm versus Jermaine Randamie for the inaugural UFC 145-pound title. It's a stacked show.
That's right, a big episode of Submission Radio. And before we get into it, just a quick reminder to everybody to follow us on Twitter at SubmissionAUS, and also like us on Facebook, facebook.com/SubmissionRadioAUS. Jump on iTunes and leave us a review. And speaking of reviews, Cass, another sexy review coming in this week that we're going to be reading out.
I love it. I love when these sexy reviews pour in, and I always get excited about reading them on the show. We will continue to do that as long as they are poured in. So this is from NASA Jitsu from the United States. The title is Brilliant and Sexy MMA Podcast. I love it already. Brilliant MMA podcast that is, dare I say, downright sexy. They always have solid guests with great fighter interviews and provide insightful and enthusiastic reporting and commentary. Plus, those Aussies are freaking hilarious. Hands down, one of the best MMA podcasts out there. 5 stars from NASA Jitsu. Thank you so much, NASA Jitsu. I mean, these reviews are so good, it almost seems like we're paying people to just go out and write positive reviews, but I kid you not, these are 100% real, and it means the world to us that you guys are taking the time to write all these things. You wouldn't even have to. You could give us however many stars you want, and then just write good times. That's it, full stop. But the fact that you guys are taking this much time, it means a lot, and we appreciate it. As long as you guys keep putting in these reviews, we'll keep reading them on the show. We're always happy to do it.
That's right. We do the show for you guys, for your enjoyment, to distract you from work or whatever else is going on and get you excited for the fights. And no better example than the show that we have for you today. And Cass, we have our first guest on the line, and you're about to introduce him.
All right, guys. Our next guest has been a staple of the UFC's top 5 in the light heavyweight division for almost a decade. He is the winner of Season 8 of The Ultimate Fighter and has recently been exploring his options as a free agent. Can't wait to hear the latest on this story. Ryan Bader, welcome back to Submission Radio. How's it going today?
Doing well. What about you boys?
Well, with Ryan Bader on the line, how could you not be doing well? And Ryan, before we jump, hey, what are you doing later tonight? No, I'm kidding. Before we jump to what's going on in the crazy world of Ryan Bader, how about the crazy world of the Super Bowl, where the Falcons looked like they were winning, and then the Patriots come back, win it. Now, are you a Cardinals man, Ryan? And what was your reaction to this crazy, historic, unbelievable Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, it was nuts for sure. And then really, I had no dog in the fight, in this game, but just wanted to see a good game, and then didn't disappoint, especially at the end there. Brady made the magic happen, came back, and won a crazy game. And it's a testament of he's a winner and he got it done. It doesn't matter. If you're blown out in the first half, whatever, you come back, and if you're up at the end, all that matters. So they won the game. It was cool to see.
Yeah, it's almost like a Hollywood movie before our eyes. I could see a huge, I don't know, Leonardo DiCaprio playing him one day in the future, but I want to quickly get your thoughts on this Lady Gaga halftime performance. Some people poo-pooed it, some people didn't like it, others thought it was pretty cool. She kind of jumped off the top of the stadium, looked like, and she made it to actually sing. What were your thoughts? Give us the Ryan Bader rating out of 10. What did you think?
Yeah, I didn't actually see all of it. I saw little bits and pieces or whatever, but I thought it was good. It's not like I listen to her music all the time, but I'm a fan. She's crazy and wild, and I like that.
All right, well, let's jump to what's going on in the crazy and wild world of Ryan Bader. Lay it on us, Ryan. Last week, the story was that you were expecting an offer from Bellator. Did you get it, and are you officially a part of the Bellator roster yet?
Well, yeah, not official yet. So we're there. I can't speak crazy amount on it, but they're going through a bunch of the legal stuff. But really, how it works is to give you kind of the timeline deal. Before our last fight with the UFC, UFC brought a deal to us, and we decided that we wanted to fight it out and see what we could get on the free market. And so we got that deal from the UFC. We said, we're going to pass. We're going to fight this last fight out, and be a free agent, and that's really where you want to be in sports world, anywhere in any sport. You want to be able to be in a good position, be a free agent, and see what you're worth out there. So, we did get an offer from Bellator, and it's a great offer. I think it's one of the better offers out there outside of being a UFC champion, getting pay-per-view points, and worked a lot with my manager Dave Martin. He's also a lawyer, so they're kind of, putting it in his hands to kind of figure out all the legal aspects. We have some inactivity stuff in there, so we're getting fights, make sure I'm staying active. Most importantly, we're getting the right fights. I wanted to know what the plan was for me, this and that, obviously on top of having, good money, all that kind of stuff. And so we got a really, really great offer from Bellator. And, as of now, I've seen about as much of it as you guys have. Dana, came out and said it's probably the best for us, and I wouldn't be able to match it. So it looks right now like I am, but officially I haven't signed a piece of paper yet because we're dealing with some stuff between UFC and Bellator right now. So.
Okay, well, there's a lot to you dropped a lot of knowledge on us, and there's a lot to unpack there. So I guess first question is, if you can shed some light on what exactly is the holdup. You said there's some legal stuff that you're dealing between Bellator and the UFC. Are these normal things that everybody goes through when they leave the UFC, or is this something that's irregular that's popped up? And also, when do you expect this to be sorted out? What's the rough timeline here?
Well, I can't get too crazy in detail like I was saying, but it's just some stuff. Nothing on our part. It's just some stuff where they want to see some stuff, and so I'm not absolutely sure, but I think it's maybe kind of one of the first in my situation. But it's just hard to talk around without getting into it. But
sure,
it's just really a bunch of legal stuff. That's between the two organizations. So they're just figuring it out. It's not a big deal, and I hope to have it done in the next couple of days, so we can move on. But and then kind of start talking about what fight, this and that. But as of now, looking at it with UFC coming out, and listen, I love fighting the UFC. I spent my career there. I won Ultimate Fighter. Fought 20 fights in the UFC, and I've had a great time. I've traveled the world, all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, I got to look out what's best for me, financially. Like I was saying earlier, the plan, like what's your plan for me? What opportunities do I have? And, we saw that here, and it was in the UFC's court to match it. And I just saw the interview, with Dana saying they're not going to, and I respect that. They let us go, and had done bad state or anything like that. And yes, and that's where we're at right now, really.
It's interesting because the money's there, but is a part of you sort of impressed with the fact that Bellator does have a plan for you? Because I feel like even though you spend so much time in the UFC, a lot of fans kind of felt like, I don't know, Dana and the UFC never really did know what to do with you, never really did have a plan for you, never kind of, and sometimes didn't really use you in the way they could have?
Yeah, for me, it's just it wasn't just about, are you going to pay me more money? How many fight deal? It was more involved in that. I think I'm at the best point physically and mentally in my career. I'm the best fighter I've ever been, and whatever organization I was going into to win the belt and have that mentality. I wasn't a guy coming over to say, okay, I'm going over to Bellator, because I've lost a bunch of fights in UFC, and I'm going to go over here and try to fight out a couple fights at the end of my career. That's not even the case. I'm going over there to win that belt. I feel like I'm the best fighter I've ever been at any point in my career right now, and just getting started. And so for me, it was a ton about that plan. There's times in UFC where I felt, I had some missed opportunities. Yeah, on my fault. Sometimes, with certain fights here and there, but there's times when I definitely earned that opportunity, and never knew where we stood. Maybe would have, if I beat this guy, I could get a title shot or this and that, And so for me, a big part of coming into these negotiations, we're saying, all right, say we're talking to Bellator, what's your plan for us? What's going to happen? And, they had the right things to say and laid that plan out for me and had that ready. So it was, I was excited to hear that for sure.
When they sent you that initial offer, because obviously sometimes there's a negotiation process and you go back and you say, look, I'd like something different, I'd like something more. Was there any negotiation process with Bellator, or once they sent you that initial offer, you were happy with that original one?
No, yeah, of course we negotiated. We'd be dumb not to. So we went back and forth. It didn't take too long to come to a place where everybody was happy, and like I said, I was very involved in the whole thing. I flew out and met, with Rich and Scott Coker and sat down, had lunch with them, and that's where I kind of came with my questions. What's the plan? What's Bellator doing in the future? All that kind of stuff, and I was impressed. And when we went back and got that offer, that was with my lawyer Dave Martin and them going back and forth, and he would bring me everything as soon as it came over, and we settled on a great, amazing offer where, we're going to be involved, different opportunities. And one thing too, which is huge for me is being able to have our own sponsorship. It's, in the UFC before the sponsorship with Reebok, I was the least I ever made was $35,000, and I've made up to 80 a fight,
Wow.
And so that's a huge amount per fight, to be cut. I mean, yes, we do get paid on tenure, and I was one of the higher tenure guys. We all know how that works, but with Reebok, but it's a huge thing there to be able to represent your sponsors again. And I have sponsors that have stuck with me through that whole process of not being allowed in the cage and all that. So it's a great opportunity to get them back out there and kind of, repay them when they stuck by it and always been a part of it. It's your team.
It's interesting because we've spoken to some fighters, and some of them have said that the sponsorship landscape in MMA has kind of dried up a little bit because once Reebok came into effect, a lot of those companies that were around, maybe they're not really around so much longer. So it's good to see that you've still got sponsors that stuck by you. What is that landscape like in 2017? And, is it similar to what it was before? And in 2017, how much do you think you can make from sponsors, say, per fight?
Well, and not to get this on anybody else or the fighters or anything, but a lot of the time they don't have the right people around them. A lot of the stuff dried up, but it was a lot of the stuff that every single manager in the business went and just picked up the phone and called them and said, hey, I have this guy fighting here. Do you guys want to jump on board? When they had no relationship with that company at all, they just see it on other fighters' shorts and know that they're open to sponsor in the UFC. And so they jump on a phone, get a little bit of money from them, and throw it on their shorts, and then go and look for something else next time. We've always, had great management, Martin Advisory Group there that built relationships, and in turn, we've built relationships with our sponsors. And, at one point, we were sponsored by 3 or 4 billion with a B dollar companies, and I continue that, with a couple of them here. American Ethanol is a huge company here, and we're still sponsored by them. Cytosport, Monster Milk, which has, muscle milk and all that kind of stuff. And they've been great and stuck through. And so it's about building those relationships, and it's still there. I can make just as much in Baltimore as I was making in the heyday of UFC here.
Wow.
Because we built those relationships, and it's not about, the t-shirt company throwing it on your shirt and your shorts and going out there because you saw it on everybody else. We have those relationships.
Wow. And, the other thing that comes, I guess the other thing that's important when being a fighter and making money, and this is something you spoke about last week on the MMA Hour, was win bonuses and how fighters should get a guaranteed purse. I'm just wondering if your arrangement with Bellator is one with a win bonus, or is it just the entire purse guaranteed? Because that seemed like something that was really important to you. I'm wondering if that was something you covered when you flew out and spoke with Coker and Rich.
Yeah, I mean, I believe I can be open about that, and it is more of a flat fee, and that's something that we've asked for that before too. It's just how it was in UFC. You get your show and your win, and even if you got a bigger show, there usually always was, some kind of win incentive on there. For me, like, I see how that is on, and why UFC does that. It gives people incentive to go out there and put all out on the line and everything. But a lot of times you get into a situation where, a guy's not going to go out there and maybe fight in a crazy, entertaining way because he can beat this guy with wrestling. He's going to go out there and wrestle this guy and secure half his pay, Whereas if you have a flat fee walking out there and you're going to get paid, you're getting paid X no matter what. And you can go out there and let loose, and you want to win, but it's not such a, it's not just in your head that all you have to go out there and do is win, because you need to secure your full income, And so I think that's definitely a huge thing. Go out there, you can leave it all out there. You can fight in a fun, exciting way. Obviously, you want to win, but you can kind of go more towards that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Do you think we'll see a new side of you in the cage? Now that you don't have that added pressure of securing a win in order to get paid?
Well, I'll tell you what, my last couple fights, I was just kind of in that mode already where I was kind of saying, all right, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to have fun. It was after that Anthony Johnson fight where I felt like I didn't show up at all, made a mistake on a takedown I should have shot, and then after that, you always have a terrible feeling after you lose and whatnot, but I was just embarrassed and said, hey, I'm just going to go after it. Stop worrying about everything. Just go out there and have fun and let it loose a little bit. I got 2 finishes, a huge knockout with a knee and then a ground and pound victory and TKO in my next fight after that, And so I kind of started that process already. And, yeah, I'll just evolve on that for sure.
And do you think that the pay structure and the fact that you get paid more to win, do you see a point in your UFC run where that really did play a factor into sort of your strategy and what you were thinking in the cage as you were fighting?
Yeah, for sure. There's times there when if I'm going out there and I'm fighting a striker, why wouldn't I go out if I'm trying to go out there and I'm trying to win? And yeah, I try to finish every fight, but it's, you're fighting top guys. It's not easy to do, but if I'm fighting a striker out there, and I want to secure my win bonus, I'm going to go out there and take his ass down, and try to ground and pound him and whatnot. And guys are tough to finish, but I think if you got a flat fee, you'd be more inclined to say, hey, I'm going to test myself a little bit right here. Whatever happens, but you get in a little dogfight and be a little war, and hey, if I lose and there's a great fight, I'm not that mad, So there are times like that for sure. I mean, absolutely. You start getting into the higher purses too. I had a good person in the UFC. That's a lot of money that you're leaving on the table if you lose.
I also just want to circle back before to how you mentioned Dana White and how you watched that interview with USA Today where he mentioned they wouldn't be matching any offer from Bellator. Just curious, was that the first time you found out, or did you already know this? Did you already know that that they weren't going to be matching any offer? Because Dana kind of made it sound like, look, we've always told Ryan that we weren't going to match the offer, and we always knew that he was going to go to Bellator.
It was more of that's like the first time I actually heard it from the mouth. We were heard kind of like, from the matchmakers or whoever my lawyer was talking to, like, we don't know if we can match that, that kind of offer or whatever. And that it'd have to be structured differently and here and there, but it was never one of the ones where they said, hey, we're not going to sign it. Go ahead and do what you got to do. And I respect them. I respect the UFC for not saying anything and beforehand in the negotiations and stuff. But they were interested. They kept asking if we had the offers and whatnot. So when I heard, I'd even watched that interview, I just saw the snippets or whatever of people translating and whatnot in the media. That was kind of the first I had heard. Like, definitely, it's we're not going to match it.
Mm. I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of people are under the impression that from the early goings it was just you're going to go straight to Bellator. How close? And obviously you mentioned that there was some discussions. How close were you to staying with the UFC? How close did they get to sort of giving you what you wanted and coming up to the deal you wanted?
Well, the thing was, once you go out and you get an offer, they have the right to match.
Mm.
And so if you go get a great offer, you're not going back and saying, hey, I guess you could, but it'd be kind of scumbag-ish and say, hey, if you guys get close to this offer, I'll stay or whatnot, It would be, I'm sure you could do it, but it wouldn't be the right thing to do there. But so we took it to them. Do you guys want to match or no? So they gave us an offer when I had one fight left. They said, hey, we're going to rip your contract up. You're fighting Nogueira in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the next, 4 or 6 fight contract at this price. And we looked at it and, talked about it a little bit, and we kind of knew already. And we said, we're gonna fight this one out, And it had to do a lot with what we spoke about earlier. Looking at more of a flat fee and looking more about opportunity and what's the plan and this and that, and so when it came time, when we were out there talking to other people, i.e. Bellator, and they had that there, it was tough to turn around. I loved fighting the UFC. Don't get me wrong on that aspect. It was a lot of great memories, traveled the world, even at the last fight, walking around, I was like, man, this may be my last UFC fight. This is crazy, but it's something that we decided, and it just time. If they came back and matched it, great, but Bellator stepped up and now it's on to the next chapter and it's exciting, re-energizing a little bit and like I said, I'm still here to be the best I can be, and I feel like I am, so I'm ready to fight for the belt and go get the belt.
Yeah, and just speaking of that interview with Dana, he did say that Bellator is a good place for you, and that at this point in your career, it's the right move. It kind of people trying to figure out what exactly he meant by that. What was your take on him saying that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I respect UFC for not coming out and saying stuff beforehand and messing up negotiations or anything like that. That was super cool of them to do that. And you can take that a couple different ways. I know that I haven't won those big fights that have got me a guaranteed title shot where it was one of those things where, if they didn't give it to me, they were nuts. I know if I beat Anthony Johnson, that kind of fight, I'd get there. So I know what he's saying in that aspect. Say, hey, he hasn't fought or hasn't beat that title contention fight yet, But there's a time when I was, and 5 in a row and this and that and was doing certain things and it didn't happen, which that happens in the sport. I get it, and so a lot of people can take it as that. But, the thing is, if you look at my last 2 fights, if you look at my last 8 fights, I'm 7-1 in my last 8 fights. I'm only getting better. I'm getting better every single time out there. I'm getting more comfortable in every aspect. The last 2 fights were good finishes. I'm going to continue that. I feel like I'm just hitting my stride. And so wherever I'm doing that, I'm going to be happy because I'm going to keep growing. And like I said, once one door closes, I'm full force on the other. So if it is Bellator, I'm looking to go in there and win that belt and defend that belt and have fun out there.
Is there? I know that the contract isn't official or anything like that, but when are you expecting to fight next? Obviously, you're a guy that wants to be busy and you want to fight and make money. When do you think you will make your Bellator debut? Is there sort of a rough timeline on the horizon?
We haven't really got to that, but I would definitely like to do it before the summer here. Sounds like a long time away here, but it's February, so that would come up somewhat quick, but just get everything here behind it. And we were in no rush. I fought in September. I fought in November, back to back. I was basically in training camp for 4 months, and then we go, I was building the house and whatnot. I have 3 kids. And so busy with that. I have a business out here that's doing well and just diving into that while also training and keeping myself healthy and getting better, And so, we're definitely busy in the meantime here and there's no rush to be fighting next month or whatnot. So the timeline, I really don't know, and it's going to be up to them. Fight-wise, we want to fight. We want to fight the best. We want to jump right in there, and so we're talking about that and getting that going too. And that was part of the talks about opportunity and what's the plan. And so hopefully before the summer here.
I mean, you've mentioned it a couple of times, your goals to get the belt. And for a lot of people, the matchup that makes the most sense is that fight with Phil Davis. Bellator would have a great fight on their hands if they did put you up against him in your debut in Bellator. Is that sort of the fight that you're sort of leaning towards as being most interested in when coming to Bellator, having that rematch with Phil Davis and sort of going for that belt from the get-go?
Yeah, of course. That's what I want. I mean, going over there and like I said, opportunity. I never had the opportunity in UFC. I never had the opportunity to make the best of that, and I'm not saying it's UFC's fault at all, because it was my fault also when, I didn't win those big fights, but and I just never got that opportunity, and that's all I want. So, I mean, we'd be looking at that. To go out there, fight Phil Davis in the rematch, beat him once in the UFC. He's been looking great. He won that belt over there. I believe I have the credentials, and I'm top 4 in the world right now, and you can step right in there and fight him for the title. It'd be as legit as it comes.
And last couple of questions before we let you go, Ryan. Just one thing we also have to mention, obviously we don't know what matchups you're going to be taking, but we have seen Bellator fighters like King Mo cross over to Rise in a fight in Japan, even move up in weight to heavyweight, and that's just opportunities that we didn't see in the UFC. Is that something that would interest you, and do those possibilities excite you, maybe fighting a guy like Fedor or Chael Sonnen or Vanderlei?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's, that was part of the talk, and not a stipulation on our part, but it was brought up on their part, and I said, absolutely, that's part of what I'm talking about as far as being open, having opportunities, different opportunities, fun fights, going up to heavyweight, fighting in a heavyweight Grand Prix, and rising, obviously on Bellator's blessing there. But yes, I mean, that's definitely part of it, so the right heavyweight fights, that would make sense, all that kind of stuff, it's exciting. It kind of gets you going again where there's just, who knows what's going to happen kind of deal. You go in there, you can fight for title. Hey, you fight for heavyweight. You go fight in Japan, which I loved fighting in Japan. I fought in UFC. I fought Rampage over there. Just stuff like that. That's just open and new. And, I've been doing this for almost 10 years here, and it's just exciting.
Well, last question, Ryan, and we'll let you go. All in all, are you happy with the way everything turned out? And what's your advice for all of the fighters listening to the show right now who may be approaching a similar situation like you? What would your advice to them be?
Oh yeah, I mean, I just for me, it wasn't getting caught up in the in the past. It was, it's just not something that UFC fighters did, which was fight out their contract. And every single athlete in every single other sport, that's where they want to be. They want to be in a good position that where they're wanted and be able to be a free agent, and see what their value is. And so, I would just advise that, there's options out there. There used to be no options. I mean, now there are. You can go see what you're worth. And, I'm not saying anybody needs to run away from the UFC or anything like that, but, if you want, if you're not happy with some of the stuff, or if you, if you're going to bet on yourself, it is what it is. That's it's normal in every other athletic arena there. So it just became kind of taboo to do it, in the past year, but I feel like now's the time. And, if UFC, pays you what you want and sets up also, great, awesome, but there's other options out there.
Well, there you go, guys. The hottest free agent in MMA has been snapped up. You are on your way to Bellator, and we couldn't be more excited. There's a lot of fun matchups, a lot of fun opportunities, and we can't wait to see what 2017 is going to bring for you, Ryan. Guys, don't forget to follow Ryan Bader on Twitter and Instagram at Ryan Bader. And I know we didn't mention it this interview, but we did last time when we spoke about, Ryan, your nootropics company, TriJuby. So you can hit them up at TriJuby, and they do a lot of great things there. So again, Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and sharing us this insight on your future. We're very excited.
For sure, guys. I always appreciate it.
This is Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to Submission Radio.
All right, guys, our next guest is coming off a dominant win over John Lineker at UFC 207 and will now be coaching opposite Cody Garbrandt in the latest season of The Ultimate Fighter before facing him for the UFC Bantamweight title. A former champion himself, he is MMA's answer to Rambo, TJ Dillashaw. Welcome back to Submission Radio. How's it going today?
It's going great, guys. Appreciate you having me back on.
No, we appreciate it. First off, congratulations on the win at 207 over Lineker. And also, we know you have an insanely busy schedule right now, so we really do appreciate your time. And you've actually just finished with training. Yeah, you literally just got out of training right now, just walked out the door. And when you're not in the gym, you're filming this new season of The Ultimate Fighter. Early days filming at the moment, TJ, but what's it been like so far?
It's been great, man. I like coaching. I feel like, I could be a great coach, or I am a great coach, and so I really get into it. I really enjoy it, and you learn a lot by coaching, and I'm coaching a awesome season, so it's going to be very entertaining.
For people that are wondering, I mean, we just see the show when it hits the TV screen, but how grueling is it? How many weeks usually do you have to shoot for something like this?
It'll be like a 6-week process, and it's nonstop, man. It's 7 days a week. Just always working. And I thought I'd have more downtime, but I really don't. I'm trying to train myself as well as coach. There is no downtime. There's no in between. Like I get home late. I'm when we're coaching fights, we're home even later. So it's been a lot of work, man. But I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's extremely taxing on the coaches, not just the fighters. How have you found the fighters, the guys in your team? Have you started forging these relationships? Are you finding that you're connecting with these guys, especially considering that you went through pretty much everything that they're about to go through?
Yeah, I'm connecting with them very strongly. You realize that you become not only a coach but a friend to these guys. And you really care about how they do, and I'm going to care about how they do even after this show. I don't only want to teach them things about how to win this show, but just have a successful career, if it could be inside the octagon or out, So yeah, it's you build some really close relationships, that's for sure.
I think the big question that everybody's wondering is, what's the vibe been so far on set, and your interactions with Cody? What have they been like? Because a lot of people sort of imagine or expect you guys to have quite a bit of tension on this season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Oh man, there's definitely some tension. I'm not really allowed to talk about how it goes down, but yeah, there's definitely tension, what it comes down to is some insecurities that he has, and him just, I don't know, being obsessed with me, really. I mean, I could care less what he's doing, and they're just so intrigued by me. I think it comes from some insecurities, and I've made the right choices in my life, and I'm proud of it.
That's interesting. I've never heard it being described that way. What makes you? What sort of do you see in him that makes you believe that he's obsessed with you? In what ways do you see that?
He's just worried about what I'm doing. Why is another grown man worried about how I live my life? You know what I mean? I wasn't ever close with him. I was never friends with him. And he's just obsessed with what I'm doing, and how I'm living and what's going on in my life. I don't question anything of what he's got going on, because that's him. I could care less. I just kind of feel like they're just obsessed over what I got going on.
Certainly. I mean, the big question here is what your coaching staff looks like going into the season. I mean, you know his coaching staff well. You've worked with a lot of them before, but who do you bring in on your side of the table when it comes to coaching?
I can't really discuss that. That's all going to have to happen when the show comes out. I've signed some waivers that I can't really talk about it. I can't release who's on the show. I mean, yeah, I can post some pictures of. So I posted some pictures. I mean, I have a lot of coaches. I have a lot of coaches out at Muscle Farm and Elevation. I have coaches that are out here in Vegas. I have other fighters that are from all around. I got Juan Archuleta. It's a great training partner of mine that's been helping me out. Robert Follis, that's out here at Extreme Couture. I got Dwayne Ludwig, Leister Bowling, Elliot Marshall, Lauren Lendau. I got some other guest coaches, some big name guest coaches coming in. Really, I think that's what I kind of bring to the table is the knowledge in the actual coaches. I don't just have fighters coaching each other. I'm actually bringing in coaches that have dedicated their life to do it.
And I mean, the good thing is the Ultimate Fighter, it's like an entree before the main course, which is, of course, you fighting for that belt again. Now, obviously, you've been chasing this title shot for a long time, and you've certainly been deserving of it. How does it feel to finally have that locked in, TJ?
Oh, it feels awesome, man. It's good. I've done the hard work. I've worked my butt off. I've proved that I'm deserving of it, and so it's nice to actually get rewarded with what I'm deserving of.
Let's talk about the fight quickly between you and Cody. I mean, the fact that you've sparred with Cody in the past is a big thing going into the fight. How do you draw from those sessions, and how much confidence do they give you that you'll be victorious when the two of you fight, or is it something that you just discard because it was sparring?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. It is just sparring, but it does give me a lot of confidence. I practiced against a guy, and my fighter IQ is through the roof compared to his. And it's a lot easier for me to figure him out. And I'm very confident and excited for this fight. It's a perfect redemption story for me.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I mean, he said that he was always the uncrowned champion of the gym, and of course, he's mentioned that he once knocked you out in training. That's had legs for days, and nobody's seen what happened between the two of you in the gym, and there's been no video or anything like that. But how excited are you to be able to go out in front of the world and sort of put an end to those rumors and do it on such a public stage and show who really is the best?
I mean, that's what counts. You know what I mean? I'm excited for that more than anything. He can talk whatever he wants. He can pump himself up and have to do it because he's insecure about the situation and knows that I'm the better fighter. He can say whatever he wants, but it's going to come down to that night, and that's the most exciting part about it. So this is what I live for. I live for these emotions and for getting out there and putting on a show and showing off for everyone.
I mean, let's just talk about this fight from a technical perspective. For everybody listening out there, where do you see your advantages in this fight between you and him?
Without giving anything away, but I think I'm just my well-roundedness. He's a great athlete. He was a good wrestler. I feel like he has good takedown defense, but he really doesn't have any good ground game. He's quick, but I use my range better. I'm a better all-around striker. I feel like he's got some good boxing. But I kind of put everything together a little bit better. Kicks to punches to wrestling, just kind of everything blended together, right? I think that's the best martial artists. We're fighting mixed martial arts. We're not boxing. So I think of blending MMA together is the way to be the best possible fighter.
Of course, and you've got obviously Dwayne Ludwig in your corner, and he's a guy who's obsessed with bringing out the best in obviously his athletes and his fighters. Just sort of looking at this. You mentioned that this is going to be a redemption story, and I agree with you 100%. And looking at it from the sort of storyline, I know you've never been a fan of trash talk and the whole WWE side of things. You've said that many times on the show. How much of this fight and this rivalry will be personal for you? Does it add anything, for you that it'll be him of all people specifically that you'll be taking the belt from?
No, man. I've learned a lot not to make things personal. I'm going out there and. There's a lot of pressure on just winning my belt back. So that's enough. I don't need to make it personal. I need to go out there and put a smile on my face. No matter how personal he tries to even make it, to me, it's about staying cool, calm, and collected, and that's how I'm going to be fighting my best.
There was a while ago when he was in a program, and he said that the next time that he sees you, that the two of you will have some words. Was there any point where you guys sort of off camera, things that maybe we won't see on The Ultimate Fighter, maybe had a chat, ironed out some things, just, I don't know, I guess squash the beef or anything like that?
No, not really squashing the beef, but off camera, not on interviews. Things are fine. Things are perfectly fine. Right, we're in rooms together and things are nothing. But as soon as the camera's on and doing interviews, he's the tough guy because he wants to look cool. For him, it's all about looking cool and getting his social media followers up. It's a lot of petty stuff. He's into getting his hair lined up and his eyebrows waxed and looking as cool as he possibly can. But really, I think it makes him look just kind of dumb. To buy into all that and to he really doesn't have the wits behind him. He can talk, but really just him getting angry. You saw it with Cruz as well. He just kind of gets angry and loses it. He really doesn't have any valid points.
I think a lot of people are expecting that this season of Tough is just going to be, you guys at each other's throats the whole time and all this crazy drama. But is it fair to assume that, what was that first interaction like when you guys arrived on set and the cameras went off? Was it just handshakes and, hey, how you doing, and all cordial stuff?
Yeah, man. You guys will have to wait and see,
Yeah.
I can't be giving away no secrets.
Before we move off the topic, I just want to quickly also mention your wonderful wife, Rebecca Dillashaw, who does a lot behind the scenes when it comes to yourself and a lot of stuff that goes on a day-to-day basis. And this is a huge moment for yourself, but also for her as well. All the spotlight is on you. But how much of a help has she been, especially during a difficult time like this, where you have no downtime to really do anything?
Yeah, I look to her a lot. With just life, and then also keeping my head on straight with fighting, and controlling my emotions. And she knows how I work best. She's been with me for almost 11 years now. She's been through my wrestling career and now my fighting career. And she knows it. She prepares my food. She helps me just everything. Without her, it'd be a lot harder of a journey. And she does everything she possibly can to make it easy for me. So yes, she's got a lot on her plate as well as I do.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
I'm not easy to deal with. I know that. I'm not very to put up with, and she does a good job.
Yeah, we're all a bit like that, so we can understand that, TJ. Our partners take it as well. But something else that we noticed, now last time you were on the show, he spoke to you about how you only made, by a lot of people's standards, people were shocked that you made 25 and 25, 50,000 for your win over a Sunset UFC 200. A lot of people thought you deserved more. This time, though, we're happy to see that you made 100 and 100, 200,000 for beating John Lineker. What happened? How did this pay increase come about? Was there discussions of a new contract or something like that?
We did. I did sign a new contract. But also with that payment again, or with that fight against Sinsal, there was an LOA on my contract. So there's money that's shown publicly, and then there's money that's given on the back end. So I made more than what was shown. But and so I think that was also another reason why to re-sign the contract, because it kind of backfired on them, right? They don't want all the fighters to know how much you're making, but then also it looks bad in the public eye as well too. So. Yeah. I was doing better than what it showed.
Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, how many fights is this contract for?
I think I signed a 8-fight deal.
Okay.
The big.
What it comes down to, you just can't believe everything you read on the internet. It's not always the truth.
Well, of course. And at the moment, a lot of people sort of looking at the landscape of MMA, and we had Randy Couture on last week talking about the MMA FA. And of course, you're a part of the MMA AAA, which is a very, very popular group at the moment, the Mixed Martial Arts Association. We haven't really heard much from the association lately. Are there any updates? What can you tell us as far as things that have been going on the last few months?
Unfortunately, I haven't had any updates either because I've been so ridiculously busy. I went straight from my fight. I didn't get any downtime. I got called up for this Ultimate Fighter and came straight up to Vegas. So I haven't even talked or seen my management company yet, but I'm imagining that I'll hear something soon.
Do you still?
They're all working hard. They kind of told me that they're giving me. They're working hard on it, and they're staying active. But I have so much going on and so much on my plate right now that they're gonna update me here soon. They said they have some great news, and things are going great. So that's very positive to hear.
Yeah, we're all excited because I'm sure the next big update is around the corner. I'm just curious if anyone from the UFC at any point has spoken to you about that and your involvement, if there's been any conversations at all.
No, there hasn't. No. I was kind of curious about that too.
Are you surprised?
Yeah, no. I guess so. I don't know. Not really sure.
It's interesting because,
I'm just staying neutral.
Yeah.
Staying neutral,
Yeah. And I mean, that's important. A lot of people sort of mention that it's not about attacking the UFC, but just getting what's best for fighters.
No.
Some people were a little bit disappointed because obviously Conor McGregor has been in the spotlight quite recently. And when speaking about the issue, didn't really get behind you guys when asked about it. A lot of people feel like the association would benefit greatly with his support. Were you disappointed when he sort of shot down the fact that he's not really supporting it at the moment?
Man, I don't do any news about MMA and fighting. I stay away from it. I mean, I don't. My life is fighting. You know, I mean, I'm at the gym 24/7. So when I get home, I'm into watching some Netflix and not really getting into anything. You know, I'm getting my mind somewhere else. I'm playing with my dogs, hanging out with my wife, living my life outside of fighting. Life is completely fighting, so I kind of stick away from it. So I don't really know much.
I have to ask you.
So whenever I do these interviews, I end up learning more about MMA and what's going on in the world of MMA when I do these interviews.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Well, I got to ask, what are you normally watching on Netflix? What's on the TJ Dillashaw playlist?
Oh man, I love binge watching. I get into something and then I get addicted. Just like I do with training, I have a very addictive personality. Once I start watching something, I can't stop watching it. You know. And so I've run out of things to watch. So I'm always researching new things or just finding what's on there. Right now I'm watching a show. It's okay. It's called Black Sails.
Mm-hmm.
Black Sails.
It's okay. Yeah.
I've been watching Shooter.
I'm
okay.
a big Game of Thrones fan. You know, was a huge fan of Breaking Bad and things like that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when a new show comes to Netflix, everybody just has to check it out because everyone's seen everything that's on there already. But as we let you go, because we know you're a busy man, we have a couple of last questions. Before we move on from the Cody topic, when do you want to actually fight and when do you expect this fight to actually take place?
Well, I believe the air shows, like the first air of Ultimate Fighter is April 19th. So I'd imagine we wouldn't fight until the show's over. And so it's usually like 12 to 13 weeks of a season.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd imagine after that, probably like in July.
Okay. And would you have a preference whether it would be, say, on a pay-per-view or at a tough finale? Because sometimes they do it differently. Sometimes the coaches fight on the same show as the fighters, or sometimes they leave it to a pay-per-view. Do you have a preference?
You know, as far as I've understood it, this fight's too big to be on a finale. This is going to be a big, hyped-up fight, and we're going to get a pay-per-view card.
Very nice.
Well, before we let you go, we want to talk about something that, you know, me and Casper don't know much about, but it excites us, and that is knives. Now, we see on Twitter and Instagram, nice. You're about the knives these days, specifically Kershaw knives. How many knives do you own? What's the story? Can you tell us about a time when you used a knife? Did you ever did the kid ever have a pocket knife and you go, that's not a knife, this is a knife? Did you have any of those moments? Talk to us a little bit here, TJ.
No, it'd be a whole lot cooler if I did, but I definitely have some knives that would be impressive compared to a pocket knife. I mean, Kershaw, I have dozens and dozens of Kershaw knives. I mean, they're by far the best making knife, and that's why I approached them. You know, if you haven't used a Kershaw knife, it's like using nothing else. You know, I mean, I use it for hunting. I'm using it for when I'm camping. I'm using it to cook food with. You know, I mean, they're very well rounded. I even got throwing knives, so I can go in the backyard and throw some knives around at targets. It's fun, man. But you know, mainly I've grown up using knives because I've always been out in the wilderness. You know, when you're out backpacking, you know, 20 miles out in the wilderness and doing a drop camp for hunting, you know, you definitely need a knife. You know, and you need a knife for skinning and gutting your animal. You need a knife for making camp. You know, and luckily enough, Kershaw has got every end covered on that. So I'm set up good. I mean, like I said, I have too many knives. I mean, there's knives I haven't even used yet. So I just kind of collect them. Now. You
don't have enough arms for the amount of knives you have. Have you ever had to use your Kershaw knife, to get out of like a dicey situation? Because I'm imagining you like somewhere in the jungle with like a knife between your teeth, and before you know it, you're like using your knife to break into like some kind of Russian spy camp or something like that. Is that kind of what's happening on a weekly basis, TJ?
You know, not yet, but I'm ready for those survival situations. I'm packed and ready. I'm built for survival situations, and maybe one day we'll have a story about it.
Well, there you guys go. If apocalypse comes, we're all going to TJ Dillashaw's house. But for now,
I got plenty of room, man. Enough guns.
That's right. Hey, save us a spot, TJ. We make nice teas, and Casper can cook some good steak. So we deserve a spot. Guys, make sure to check out TJ on Twitter and Instagram at TJ Dillashaw. Of course, he'll be coaching against Cody Garbrandt in the latest season of The Ultimate Fighter. one of the hardest working men in the business right now, TJ Dillashaw. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule for being on the program. We can't wait to see what happens next.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate it. It's always a great talking to you guys. And like I said, I end up learning more about MMA just by talking to you guys. So I appreciate that.
Hey, this is Ariel Helwani, and you're listening to Submission Radio with my two favorite mates, Dennis and Casper.
All right, guys, coming on the program now is a 4-time Olympian who proved the doubters wrong once again when he beat Chris Camozzi at UFC Melbourne, now riding a 3-fight win streak. Dad's Army will now be taking on Rashad Evans in the blockbuster UFC 209. It's a pleasure to welcome a friend of the program, Dan Kelly, back to Submission Radio. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. How are you guys?
Very good, very good. It's always great having you on, so welcome back. And there's a lot to discuss. We noticed, before we get into that, we noticed that on New Year's Eve, you and your family decided to celebrate by going to Hungary. Talk to us about that. We didn't realize you had roots or family there.
My wife's Hungarian, so we went back just before Christmas and spent a few weeks back there, which was awesome. And back home now and back to work. But yeah, it was really good. First time the kids had a white Christmas, so it was awesome.
Well, we saw there was some traditional meals, games of Mario Kart and fireworks on New Year's, and a lot of other fun things, some markets. Tell us, what was the biggest highlight from the trip?
The best thing is the boys have got such a big family back there. They've got 9 first cousins and 7 aunties, and it was really nice just to be able to have such a big family around Christmas. My family's quite small and we're a little bit spread out, so it's good for them to know that they've got such a big support base on the other side of the world.
That's awesome.
Plus the food was awesome. The food was awesome. A little bit too awesome, to be honest.
The weight cut's going to be challenging. You had another, speaking of awesome moments, you had another awesome one when you beat Chris Camozzi at Rod Laver Arena last November. Talk to us about what the last few months have been like for you since that win.
Pretty quiet. I obviously had to have a couple of weeks off to fix the stitches that I got in my head, those couple of nice cuts that Chris got me with, and then went away. And then as soon as I got back, straight into preparing for a fight, although we didn't get an opponent until a little bit later. But yeah, my aim was always to fight in March, and it just took a while to get an opponent, and it's still not 100% confirmed yet, but it looks like it's going to happen.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a sec, but talk to us about your mindset after that fight, because you've sort of talked to us before how you're sort of taking this thing fight by fight. You know, you're a little bit older and you're not sure what the future holds, but getting a win like that over Camozzi, after that fight mentally, was there sort of an idea in your head that, hey, this title shot may not be such a crazy idea. Maybe I can make it to the title and become champion before I finish this thing up?
I'd love to. I mean, that's everyone's dream. I don't know how realistic it is, but that fight against Camozzi is probably the most comfortable I've felt in the octagon against a very, very experienced guy. And yeah, I don't see that there's any limit or ceiling as to what I can do at the moment. Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I lose a fight and get destroyed, then maybe I'll be going, oh shit, well yeah, there's my ceiling. But it hasn't happened yet, so we're still going to carry on and keep winning fights.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that you're still really coming into your own as a fighter, which is great to see. Let's talk about quickly your family and your gym. I mean, this must have been an amazing moment to share with your wife and kids and, of course, your students. What was it like celebrating that win for you? Well, what did you do?
It was fantastic. Well, straight after the fight, it was my oldest son's birthday on that day. So he came back to the hotel and we stayed at the hotel, had a buffet breakfast, went for a swim, all that kind of stuff. And then we had a bit of a party at the gym on the Monday night after, and it was really good. And I've been so lucky to be able to fight 2 shows in a row, like two years in a row in my hometown, and get good wins each time. So I've been really, really lucky, because I don't think the UFC are coming back to Melbourne this year, so I have to wait around a little bit for another go at that.
And I'm just wondering, what does this party look like in your gym? I mean, obviously it's Resilience Training Center in Footscray. Is it judo throws for everybody, or what's this party look like?
No, it was beer and pizza, actually.
Nice.
Once we finished class, some people didn't do class because they had the beer and pizza, but it was really nice. It was good end to the year. We had a the gym had a good year overall. I had a good year fighting-wise, so it was a really good end to the year.
Yeah, when you announce beer and pizza, I'm guessing a lot of people that don't usually come to class end up showing up at the gym just to sort of enjoy the
people that you've never seen before.
We had a few strays come in.
Mm.
Yeah, you're like, hey, who are you? Oh, I just thought I'd come down for a beer. Okay, cool, that way.
Let's talk about UFC 209. The fight with Rashad Evans has sort of been announced, but like you mentioned, it's not 100% confirmed. Where are you at with the negotiations on that? Are you close to this being official? What's going on at the moment?
I'm just waiting for word. It's official. Obviously, he's had some medical issues. I think they're double dotting I's, double crossing T's, just to make sure that he passes all his tests. I've done everything at my end, and I'm training and preparing like I'm going to fight, which I intend to.
Mm.
So it's nothing at my end. It's at the other end. We're waiting.
So just to confirm, you've signed the contract. You've sent it back, essentially, correct?
Yep, all done. Yeah.
It's
just waiting on the other end.
Mm.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because usually in these situations it's just a matter of time till the other fighter passes tests and everything's good to go. But with Rashad's situation, he's actually struggled, and we saw what happened in New York. He couldn't fight Tim Kennedy because he couldn't get his license. Also at UFC 206, the same thing happened. How concerned are you with possibly these tests not coming back great and this fight not coming together?
I don't think about it. I'm fighting Rashad Evans on the 4th of March, and that's all I think about. There's absolutely no point in speculating or putting extra demons in my head that, maybe he's not going to show up. I'm fighting him on the 4th of March as far as I'm concerned. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But that's what I'm doing.
Mm. Even though we know that obviously you're capable of it, it seems that, you keep defying the odds. Fans still view you as a constant underdog. Talk to us about it. I mean, you're fighting Rashad Evans on March 4th. What would it mean for you to make a statement like that and beat him?
It would be massive. This is a huge name. He's a former champion at the weight division above, and it's one of the biggest names I think that any Australians fought. I mean, obviously Elvis Sinasek fought Tito Ortiz for the title.
Mm.
Mark Hunt's fought some really high quality guys. George Soteropoulos fought for Sanyos before. I'm right up there in getting a fight against Rashad Evans. So it's massive. It's massive, but I think stylistically and timing-wise, it's a good matchup for me. So obviously that's a little bit cliched, but I honestly believe that if I can get through the first minute or two of any fight, then I'm a good chance to beat anyone.
Yeah, and we want to sort of talk about the matchup a bit more in a sec, but what's your response to the people online and everybody all over the place when they heard this matchup was happening, especially a lot of people overseas that didn't quite know who you were because you have fought a lot of local cards. The sentiment is, this fight will be over quick. This is one of the biggest mismatches they've seen. And others are saying it's a tune-up fight for Evans in the middleweight division. I mean, is that a motivator for you? Is it annoying? How do you deal with fans sort of saying that kind of stuff?
As always, it's a motivator. I had no chance in hell against Shoeface. I had no chance against Kamosi, and I've got no chance against Rashad. And I really don't care at all. I couldn't care less. I read that stuff, and my corner and I actually, we don't laugh at it. We look at it, and we know. I know it's going to be like that every single time, which is good because it means I'm fighting better guys who are more highly rated and bigger names. You don't get much bigger name than a former champion. So, of course, I'm going to be the underdog, and they're going to go, who the fuck is that guy and all that kind of thing, trying to copy Conor McGregor. I mean, who cares? I really don't care.
That's the best take possible on it. Well, talk to us more about, from a technical standpoint, you mentioned that you match up very well with him, and obviously if you get past the first minute or two, you can be a massive problem for anyone, as you have been in the past. Take us more into that matchup. Where do you see yourself having the advantages, and where do you think you can get him and beat him?
He's very explosive. He's not going to have changed that much. I mean, he's been the same pretty much his whole career. Against southpaws, he'll throw a high head kick. His overhand, his wrestling is very, very good and explosive. But I think after a round or two, he's going to start doubting and questioning, and that's when I come into my own. I'll keep pressuring forward, and I'll put him on his back, and that's where I'll win the fight.
Wow, that's interesting. And I mean, looking at Evans, even though he is a huge name in MMA and has achieved a lot. A lot of people aren't really factoring in the fact that we haven't seen him at middleweight. It's almost a year since his last fight where he got KO'd in the first round by Glover. He lost his last 2 fights. He is 37 years old. Do you think there's a very, very real scenario where a lot of these things will have a big impact on his middleweight debut?
Possibly. Look, he's a pioneer, and I've got to take my hat off to him. It's it's a great opportunity and all that, but it's possible. I mean, I'm 2 years older than him. I know how hard it is to do all the training and do the weight cut, and doing it for the first time at that age it's going to be difficult. Even if he says, I feel great and this is going to be easy and awesome, it's not going to be easy and awesome. It's going to be hard work, and he's going to feel different at that weight. So yeah, possibly it will. And how quickly his chin recovers from the weight cut as well. That's always a factor.
And I mean, in his last fight, or at least scheduled fight against Rashad was very confident based on what they did in training in the past, and Tim sort of explained his side of the story that Rashad may have been a bit overconfident based on those things. With so many people looking at, labeling this as a tune-up fight, I'm not sure what Rashad thinks, but do you think maybe he's underestimating you going into this fight?
Possibly. Possibly, and that would be normal. I think Kamosi underestimated me when he waltzed in there. Shoeface definitely would have. I think they all do. So it won't be anything unusual for him to be underestimating me. And then the longer the fight goes, the more he's going to realise he's made a mistake. So that's normal. That's completely normal for me. They go, oh, he's slow. He's, like we've said before, his striking's bad. He's awkward. Oh, he looks like he's been beaten down by 100 years of training. All those things, they look true. But it's a little bit different when we're in there against each other, and they have to deal with the pressure forward and the timing and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit different when you're in there.
Well, talk to us about your preparation for this one. We know you've always had great camps at your Gym Resilience Training Centre here in Footscray, Melbourne, and it's a gym, by the way, that everybody needs to go check out when they're visiting Melbourne, because it's a fantastic place to learn a lot of stuff, and it's just got a great atmosphere. Are you currently doing anything different for this one? Have you thought about bringing anyone else to work with, or is it business as usual?
Business as usual. Obviously, the game plan's always different. We've got a few more wrestlers come in, some local wrestlers. We're lucky in Melbourne, actually. We've got some good Irani wrestlers who are floating around who are happy to just shoot after shoot after shoot. My stand-up coaches are always the same, and they're helping me like they always do. And yeah, I'm staying home and doing a camp like I always do. I'll probably bring down a couple of my tough nations teammates to train, and yeah, that'll be it. It'll be the same as always. It's not broken, so I don't really need to fix it.
And just give us the update, because we know there's a few niggles here and there from your epic judo career. How is the body feeling at 39 years old?
Actually, not too bad. Not too bad at all. My the knee I have a lot of problems with has been good. Touch wood. Has been really good lately. And look, it's hard work when you get old. That's all there is to it. So the body's okay.
Let's talk about K1 Dan Kelly, because, I mean, fans have seen huge improvements in your striking every time you get out into the octagon. I mean, a lot of people are listening to this right now and sort of having their first introduction to Dan Kelly, because there's a lot of people overseas with an invested interest in you. Talk to us a little bit about where these massive increases come from, and your striking coach, their ability to help you with these increases, because fans are amazed at the improvements you make fight by fight.
They're amazed, really. I thought they keep saying that I look slow, awkward, and horrible. It's just hard work, and I'm lucky that my coaches will try different things. And if I am limited in what I can do physically, and we just try and hone the things I can do better and well, and just keep adding things, working on my defense, working on head movement, working on straightening all the punches up. We just work diligently at it. I'm at it 5 or 6 days a week doing work on my striking. So it's just hard work and stubbornness and a lot of patience by my coaches. That's a big thing. They're very patient, and if something isn't going to work, they go, okay, we'll move on to do this. So they're very good at filtering things that'll work and what won't what won't work for me.
Mm-mm. And the interesting thing is that in a lot of ways, it kind of seems like this loss against Sam Alvey that you had a while back made you reassess your skill set and motivated you to really focus on, becoming an effective striker. Looking back, was losing that fight kind of a blessing in disguise for you, Dan?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I made the mistake in that fight. I mean, Sam caught me when I was trying to kick, and I don't kick very much anymore. And it just made us narrow a little bit the skill set and get better at certain things and read timing a little bit better. But you can never say a loss is a blessing, but it certainly did make us reassess what we're doing and how we're doing things. And it's made us have a better process for after fights and be super critical even after I win as to what I did well, but more focus on what I did badly so we can improve for the next one. Because every time I get a new opponent, they're better and more highly rated than the one I had before. So we have to keep behaving like I made a lot of mistakes and we need to move forward. So it's been really good in that regard.
The interesting thing about this matchup is Evans is a massive, massive name. And even though he's not a middleweight fighter, beating him does a lot for your career. And I mean, a lot for people sort of knowing who you are around the world and making a statement. What do you think a win like that does for you in the division? What does it give you if you beat a guy like Evans?
I think it gives me a fight against someone ranked, guaranteed next. To be honest, this is a bigger fight than against a guy who's ranked in the division. Someone who's in the 10 to 15 kind of range, hasn't got the name that Rashad has. And so this kind of really, and on the card that it's going to be on, it really puts me on a platform to everywhere, not just locally in Australia, but the whole world. So it's a really, really massive opportunity in that regard, and really important that I do well as well.
Well, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, Dad's Army will be stepping into enemy territory in Las Vegas, and you obviously have fought outside of Australia once when you beat Patrick Walsh at Fight Night 60 in Colorado, but this is different. The fight capital of the world. How do you feel about fighting in Vegas? Is there I'm assuming you've imagined this moment for so long. What have you thought about it?
Yeah, no, I have. It's obviously a bucket list item. To be honest, I've competed in judo in Las Vegas before, and I've traveled all over the world doing competitions through my judo career. So in terms of the process and the structure to get over jet lag and all of that, that's nothing. I was lucky in a way to have a lot of extra media obligations in fight week when it was in Melbourne last time. So I think that puts me in a good position to have already experienced that and not let it bother me leading into a fight. And now that I go into enemy territory against a higher profile opponent, I just don't think I'll get that much media this time anyway. I think it'll be more on him, but at least I'm prepared for that kind of thing as well. So yeah, it'll be fine. It's exciting and all that, but at the end of the day, it's still a business trip and it's still a fight.
Well, the big question for the family is how far out from the fight will you be going up there? And is this the excuse the family has been waiting for to fly out to America with you and go to Disney World afterwards?
No, we won't be going away this time. They won't be going away this time. They just spent 5 weeks in Hungary at the beginning of the year. So I'll be going over a week early, probably about 8 days early, and get ready to go and then come straight home. And hopefully if everything goes well and I come out unscathed and with a win, then potentially if I fight in the middle of the year, there's a rumour it might be in New Zealand. Then we'll probably do a family holiday there after. But that's a rumour at the moment. But the middle of the year one, we'll do something together. But yeah, no, business trip this time.
I've been to New Zealand in the middle of the year when it's snowing, and it is absolutely beautiful. So I hope things work out for you in that regard. And of course, us and the whole world will be watching at UFC 209. Tell us, how do you see this fight with Rashad going? What is the official prediction from Dan Kelly? How do you see yourself getting a hand raised, Dan?
I'll either be a stoppage in the third round or by decision. This will be a long, grueling fight. A long, grueling fight, and like the last couple I've had, I think I'll have to break him down physically and mentally to win the match because he is such an explosive athlete. But look later in the fight, and yeah, that's where I'll be.
And will we see Dan Kelly grabbing the mic in the octagon afterwards with a name in mind, perhaps, for who's next?
I'm not
we love it, Dan. We love it.
Yeah, I know. Look,
I definitely want a ranked opponent if I win this fight. Definitely. Anyone in the top 15, and that's not just 10 to 15. Anyone can beat Rashad Evans, then I can fight anyone in the top 15, I think.
It's going to be a spectacle. And Dan, just quickly, before we do wrap this up, a few other Aussies on the card. You got Tyson Pedro. Obviously, Mark Hunt's going to be on there as well, representing Australia and New Zealand. Does that kind of feel good knowing that there'll be a few Aussie representatives on this card?
Yeah, it will be for sure. Actually, Mark Hunt stole one of my training partners, so I'm not that happy with him at the moment. But I'll talk to him over there. But yeah, no, it is good. I mean, I know Mark. I only met Tyson in Sydney, but yeah, it'll be really good. It'll be awesome.
Who was it?
Yeah, no, it's a good bit of Aussie flavour.
Who was it? Who's the training partner he stole?
Big Jason from AET. Our kids actually go to the same school. So Eric and his younger son Taj both go to the same school, and yeah, so I normally train with him on a Sunday, and he's helping Mark Hunt, which is annoying, but hey.
You know what this means? Dan Kelly versus Mark Hunt next.
Yeah, great.
In New Zealand as well. This whole I feel like this is all panning out to Dan's unfortunate future to him versus Mark. No, we're just kidding. But it's going to be a lot of fun seeing what happens. Guys, Dan is representing Australia on the big stage at UFC 209 against Rashad Evans, along with Tyson Pedro and Mark Hunt. If you're located in Melbourne, make sure to check out Resilience Training Center in Footscray. We guarantee you'll love it. You can go to resiliencetradingcenter.com and get more information. And make sure to follow Dan on Twitter and Instagram. This is your opportunity to get to know the man that may beat Rashad Evans at UFC 209. That's at Dan Kelly Judo. Get to know the man. We've got a lot of great content on him that we'll be re-releasing again before the fight happens. Dan, we're very, 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 very excited to see what happens in this fight.
Nah, thanks heaps, guys. Thanks for the support, and yeah, catch you over there.
Hey guys, this is Brian Stan. You're listening to Submission Radio.
All right, guys. Well, after winning 9 fights in a row, our next guest has finally earned an interim title shot UFC 209 with an impressive win over RDA in his last performance. He now faces longtime rival Khabib this March. Tony Ferguson, welcome back to Submission Radio. It's great to have you, man.
Hey, thanks, guys. I just finished practice in LA with Coach Eddie Bravo. I'm amped. I'm more than excited. We only got a few more weeks, gentlemen.
Wow, we can hear the adrenaline in your voice. Before we get into it, Tony, because there's a lot to talk about, we did see that Spouse Day went well on Instagram. There's a picture of some balloons and chocolates your wife got you to celebrate. Now, with Valentine's Day coming up, is it safe to say the stakes are high?
It was cool, man. It was Spouse Day. I wasn't expecting it. Big, tough robot like myself. She got me to smile once or twice. I told her, keep that under wraps, but she got me, man. It was a great thing, and I still hang up the balloons in the room, so it was cool. And dope little surprise, man.
Well, let's talk about the stakes because, like you mentioned, I mean, you're amped up. It's all happening. We're just a few weeks away. And before we get to the matchup, there's been some news coming out around UFC 209. Some news came out last week where Jose Aldo's coach claimed that him and Aldo tried to organize a fight with yourself. And we quote, he said this in an interview, when we offered it, he ran and didn't take it. Now, people haven't really gotten a chance to hear your side of the story. What happened there? And did you ever even get a chance to fight Aldo?
That dude is full of shit. You know what? I've never backed away from a fight. In fact, I've taken fights to save cards. As for other people saying that they're going to take like a fall or whatever the hell, I don't know what Aldo's problem is. He's trying to stay in the limelight. That dude's fading out faster than a firework on 4th of July. That dude is just out. He's trying to make his way back in, and he's trying to obviously have my name in his mouth, which that's not fair to say because honestly, I'm not talking shit to him. But if him and his coach want to sign on dotted line, I don't have a problem with it. But to say that I refused a fight is complete shit. Like I said, I've never backed away from any fight that's ever been presented to me, so on and so forth. I always sign on dotted line, and I always show up no matter what. There's been one instance that I haven't had it, but I fucking bite my lip, and I get so pissed off of myself that I couldn't make it that one time. And that's for Khabib, and this is the fight that we're talking about. Fuck Aldo.
I mean, obviously Khabib and you, that's the fight that people wanted to see for a long, long time. Just curious, did you ever get offered the Aldo fight?
Did I ever get offered it? I don't remember getting offered the Aldo fight at all. I don't remember it being on the fucking on the board. I don't even remember being on the plate. So as far as like what people are saying, the fights that I got offered are the ones that have been presented to me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that fight. I mean, everybody's excited about it. You and Khabib, UFC 209, the fight that everybody's been waiting for such a long time. There were a few issues, a few hurdles coming in when this fight was being put together. When the fight was brought to you, there were some reports he asked for a similar purse to Khabib, something that Dana White didn't want to grant you. Talk to us about that process, and did the UFC update and renegotiate your contract to make this fight happen?
It was a bullshit kind of talk thing that just had to happen. I thought, you know what, we have the same kind of numbers, we have the same kind of record. As far as demographics, I don't know. You want to talk about Instagram likes and all that other like the bullshit? I didn't get involved in this business for that. But I felt that the what was going on wasn't fair, so I had to fucking put my foot down. I put my foot down. I've always been a guy for my company being a yes man, but this is the time I thought I needed to be fair. We're fighting for an interim belt. There's no bullshit, man. There's no bullshit fight. This is the one. You got a nine in a fight world record versus an 8 fight world record with a padded record and a furry hat. That's this dude, man. I'm about to fight him, and I'm going to take all of this credibility. I'm going to take his hype train. I'm going to derail that SOB, man. I'm tired of the talks between, I'll make more money and this and that. I'm like, man, you guys are fucking fools, man. You guys, your heads are floating in the clouds. I'm going to put you guys back on the ground where you belong. You know, I'm the money maker here. You guys want, I'm going to crush you guys. You know, I'm the map monster in this division, and I'm the one that's keeping it straight, man, Bushido-like. So even when Khabib wanted to offer out the fight money, I thought it was bullshit that the UFC didn't do it. I'm like sitting here, I'm like, you got fighters wanting to fork over the money for us to create these fights. Let's go, company. Let's go, man. Because I'm a company man. I'm all for the UFC. But you got to pay your fighters, man. And I'm worth it. I show up. I bleed for this company, man. And I make other people bleed. And that's what the fans want. March 4th, you're going to see exactly that come. UFC 209.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy situation. A lot of people freaked out when they saw even Khabib offering you the $200,000. What ended up happening? And are you happy now with the way the situation panned out? Did you end up getting what you wanted, Tony?
Hell no, I'm not happy. Do I look happy? Do I sound happy? Fuck no, I'm not happy. I can't wait till I'm happy until I smash this dude in the ground and then go after the real belt. But like I said, I don't look look past these guys. I look right through them. And with Khabib right now, and even with past people that always told me, you worry about winning, Tony. You worry about winning, Anthony, and everything else is going to put itself forward. And so far, so good, and I'm relentless, and these guys don't have that same pace that I do. They can't match my grind.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen this happen from time to time. Luke Rockhold, for example, wanted to negotiate some of his deals. If you do win this fight against Khabib and do become interim champion, and you get some of these multi-million-dollar fights, such as the fight with McGregor, will it be a situation where you once again sort of look at it and want to get a fair paycheck for a multi-million-dollar fight like that?
Well, it'll be funny because Conor and I actually have the same management, so if I do win, then obviously it's going to be something kind of to talk about. I don't want to talk about it, but that's besides the point. But they're already talking about it, and I know where their heads are at, man, and they know where I'm at, so I don't have to go outside and talk a lot of BS. But I know whoever holding that belt, I don't care whose boy they are, I'm going to go and I'm going to wreck shit. So there's only 2 other people that are left in this division. I don't give a shit who's managing them. It's not going to stop me from slinging leather and coming out with that victory.
I mean, this is all very exciting. It's been a 9-fight win streak, which started in October 2013. It's been amazing to watch, Tony. Years of grinding away, and many disappointments in between, with fights falling out and sort of delaying your rise. How does it feel to finally be getting this interim title shot?
It's amazing. Taking aside from the aggressive nature that I always have, it's beautiful. It's awesome to look back. And the other day, I was just kind of scrolling through my head and just being thankful that the process has been relentless, just like how I fight. It's been a complete grind. It's been nonstop, grueling, taking time away from family, putting all of my energies towards my passion, which is this art and my career. And it's ups and downs, and it's been bumps and bruises, man, as you guys have seen. But it's been glorious. I couldn't ask for a much better platform to express myself than to go out there and do it in front of millions and millions of people, and then so on and so forth, man. That's the shit. This is an awesome process. And so now with this belt in hand coming at, it's awesome. I can't wait to go out there and be faster than I've ever been. hit harder than I've ever hit, and fold this dude and put him away in submission style, Tony tactical style, snap jitsu style. That's what I want to do. I want to put this thing on the map and put him in Snapdown City.
Well, that's interesting, and I want to circle back to that. But, Khabib spoke to Damon Mann, and he said, I want to break his face because I want to teach him respect. He also said, if Tony Ferguson gives me his arm, I'm going to break it like Frank Mir and Antonio Nogueira. Is it hard for this fight not to get personal when you sort of hear him say things like that? And how do you approach the fight like this mentally?
Now you done did a brought up old shit. Now you're going to bring me back to that one time where I was pissed off and I went and blasted the shit out of the bags. Because, for one, I love holding my son. I love holding my kid. And nothing's going to fucking stop me from holding my son. So you can threaten me, Khabib, but that's not what you want to fucking do to me, because I'm not the guy to threaten.
Wow, this is an even more intense version of Tony. You're gonna have to go back to Eddie Bravo's and do another workout just to sort of get everything out. But
no. That's not gonna happen. This dude's gonna get knocked out by my fucking jab. He's not gonna even get a chance to fucking get to the ground. Because if it does get to the ground, I'm gonna choke his ass out. I'm gonna choke his ass out harder than I did Edson Barbosa or anybody else. I was nice. No. I'm gonna put this fucker to sleep. You wanna break my arm? I'll be nice. I'll give you a chance to tap. But if not, I'll let you go, and then I'll beat the shit out of you, and then I'll put you back in my submission. I'm going to play with you, Khabib. You fucking threaten me one more time, dude. I swear, dude, it's over.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Tony, because, look, when people look at this matchup, a lot of people see your advantages and Khabib's advantages, and a lot of people believe that you'll exploit the fact that Khabib's striking isn't at a level of your striking, and a lot of people also believe Khabib is the best grappler in the division. So are you saying that your goal is to beat him sort of in his strength and submit him in this fight?
Always. I'm always going to beat everybody at their own strengths. Why? Because that's a challenge, and that's what I do. Is I accept all challenges. That's what I do. And I exceed all challenges and expectations because I'm a successful person. I'm doing everything behind the scenes to get everything out there. I'm going to knock this dude out. And even if I don't knock him out, I'm going to 5-point throw him. And in my kind of wrestling, that's a badass throw. So in Sambo, if you get thrown from your feet to your back, that means you just got your ass whooped. So if I throw you Khabib from your feet to your ass, dude, I just schooled you in Sambo. And then I'm going to school you MMA by beating you up. And then once you give me that neck, then I'm going to submit you. And I'm going to be better at jiu-jitsu. And then you're going to have absolutely no fucking excuse. And then you're going to go pout to your pop. And then you're going to try to go back on the drawing board. And you're going to have to fucking admit to 1.45 million people how you suck at boxing and how your Sambo and your jiu-jitsu is piss poor to my jiu-jitsu and my wrestling.
Has that been something that sort of not bothered you, but the fact that for such a long time people always considered Khabib as the best grappler in the division, sort of overlooked you, even though you have some of the most exciting grappling in all of the UFC?
He's good, man. He didn't get to where he's at by just bullshit. You know what I mean? I call it a padded record, but you got to get to 24-0 by at least winning somehow. So what he's doing is working for him. What I'm trying to say is he's not going to propose his will. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to dictate my own style, and I'm going to manipulate it, bro. I'm going to be too busy for this kid. I'm too smooth on my feet. I'm too Rico Suave on my head movement. This dude's going to try to grab me. I'm going to be fucking being out, and he's not going to know what's going on. I've seen the fight films. I've seen him quit, and I've seen the same face with RDA. He had that same quit face in the T-Bow fight because he knew he lost that fight, and I beat T-Bow in the first round, and that dude almost lost to him in the third round. Come on. You guys are fucking kidding me. I'm going to school this dude.
One of the things that I love about this fight is that even though you guys were meant to fight quite a few times before, now you're fighting on a big pay-per-view in a co-main event, and you've got the title on the line. It just seems like the stakes are so much higher than before. It's the perfect time to do it. But a lot of fans, they also don't like UFC introducing interim titles. You know, to many, the interim title, it doesn't carry as much weight. What do you say to those fans that believe that the winner between you and Khabib at UFC 209, you know, maybe they consider, you know, isn't the real lightweight champion?
Well, either way, we're the toughest sons of bitches in the division right now because money made McNuggets soft. And we all know that. That dude, you know, he wants to call himself the ghost, but he's going to fade like a ghost because he's a fucking buster. Straight up, dude. That dude's fake as fuck, dude. So regardless of what he decides to do, it's what myself or Khabib decide to do with the belt. But that dude's like, he's already trying to quit, dude. He's trying to look for excuses on his way out. That dude don't want to fucking be in a man's division. he might as well have tried to cut the 45 and lost that belt. Now he's got to try to make excuses for the 155-pound belt. But when one of us has that belt, which is going to be me, then he's going to have fucking hard as fuck time trying to go on his way to victory. Because when you're facing the boogeyman, you're facing something kind of different, dude. And both these guys don't fucking get it. I don't care who you have around you or who's holding you back from throwing chairs or water bottles. When you're locked inside that octagon with me, ain't nothing going to hold me back from getting you besides that referee.
Well,
so, I don't care what belt is straight up. I don't care what belt is in my hands. I'll be the real belt no matter what.
Well, you just referenced, obviously, a tweet that a lot of fans saw and enjoyed that just happened this past week. McGregor tweeted out a picture of himself standing in front of Eddie Alvarez with the caption, "I am the ghost." And you responded to that tweet with something along the lines of what you just mentioned. Just quickly, I'm just wondering, when did you sort of decide to respond to that tweet? What was the situation like? Because a lot of people have taken notice.
Somebody was like, the only ghost that we know is El Cucuy. Why are you trying to jock your style, dude? Come on, dude. You really trying to pay attention to me that much by trying to jock my style? Dude, go play somewhere else, McNuggets. I told you, you have a pass from me. Wait till your kid is born and go enjoy your time. But you want to keep poking your nose in this and try to back my style, jock my shit, try to rack up some points by being cool. Fucking go jack out somewhere else, dude. We're real fighters over here. You ain't no ghost. The only ghost you are, you're gonna fade out. That's why I call him a buster.
One of the interesting things about this situation, Tony, is that with this interim title fight, we don't really know what lies in the future in the lightweight division. So what we're wondering is, under what scenario does this belt go from interim to a full championship, in your opinion? You know, if this McGregor-Mayweather fight does come together as the next thing for him, and you know he's absent from the UFC for most of the year, do you believe that assuming you win, you should be made the full UFC champion while he's gone?
It should, but do you really want to see it like that? I don't. You sure as hell don't. You want to see McGregor get his ass kicked by Keith Ferg. That's what you want to see. You want to see us stylistically fight. You want to see us go back and forth and talking shit because I'm that dude that won't back down. You thought Nate was funny? Dude, I've been saving everything. You guys haven't seen shit yet. And Khabib doesn't even deserve to get the full mouth on me on this one. Fuck that. No way, dude. This one's personal. So if he wants to nitpick and say he wants to break my arm and do all this kind of, imagine what Conor would say and how much hype that shit would get. You want to see Mayweather do that? Mayweather's going to knock his ass out. Mayweather's too much for him, and he already knows that shit too. And the rest of the boxing world knows that. I know who to put my money on that one. But in the real fight that everybody wants to see and who not to know where to put the money on will be the McGregor-Ferguson fight. Why? Because I'm going to smash that fool. I'm going to submit him. You already saw him being submitted. That dude tabbed before he even got the lock choked in. So I don't know, man. I don't even know if I would want to waste my time on that kind of dude. He doesn't meet my fight standards. The only dude right now that meets it is Khabib.
Well, let's get back to the big fight with Khabib. I mean, TUF 13 aired on March 30th, 2011. And now almost 6 years later, you fight for the lightweight interim championship. Is that a surreal feeling looking back at that and looking at that? It's taken you almost 6 years, but you're finally here fighting for the title?
Yeah, that's logically how I planned it. I mean, logically in my head, I wanted my skills to match my rankings, and I wanted it to match up really well. I'm very quick on my feet. My punching and my boxing is very top-notch. My Muay Thai is classic traditional style, tough nose. I'm gonna cut you, and I'm gonna hurt you. And the rest of my game is very unorthodox, and it's to the part where I haven't even plateaued yet. I haven't even peaked at my age or my group yet. I'm just getting better, and fuck, man. You look back right now, it says 6 years. Shoot, it feels like last year, man. I've been fighting steady. I haven't been taking too many breaks. I've been staying so steady with my fight and my work ethic. And you know, I would have to be the one to actually like go through the records and check it out and look how many greens are on my record, and look back how many years ago it was. Because the only thing I've been focusing on instead of time is just those victories. And shit, dude, time goes by, but the victories keep adding up too. And I'm very happy with it. And it's a very big honorable thing, not just as far as myself, but even other Ultimate Fighter winners, such as Michael Bisping, seeing him hold the title. And it's inspiring to see Ultimate Fighter guys do that.
Absolutely. Well, it's been an amazing journey watching you go from, the tough house to here you are contending for the interim lightweight title. And who knows? I mean, you've said many times on the show before that, the sky is essentially the limit as far as your goals. You don't just want one title. You want to prove that you're best in the history, the pound for pound best. You want to hold multiple titles. So on March 4th, this is going to be your first step towards that. We got to grab a prediction, Tony. What is the prediction for this fight against Khabib at UFC 209? How are you getting it done? How do you visualize it finishing?
Oh man, I'm gonna see right away as soon as he gets hit by my jab. He's gonna be tasting nickels and dimes, and that acidic taste in his mouth. He's gonna try to shoot in, and he's gonna give me that neck. I'll put him in snap down city, and that's it. And it's gonna be over. And I won't tell you what round. I'm not even trying. Because the last fight, that one felt like sparring for me. For this guy, I want to go in there and I want to finish him. So regardless if it's quick or if it goes all 5 rounds, he's going to be punished. And he's going to learn a lesson or two in respect. And he wants to try to break my arm. I'm not going to break his arm, but I'm going to break his spirit and his will. And I'm going to send him home crying.
Wow, there you go. It's a journey that started all the way back in 2011. Now, almost 6 years later, he fights Khabib for the UFC lightweight interim title. Make sure to follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Tony Ferguson XT and check him out at UFC 209 against Khabib in one of the biggest blockbuster fights that people have been looking forward to for quite some time. Tony, best of luck, and we can't wait to see what March 4th brings. Thank you for coming onto the program.
Hey, Submission Radio, you guys are awesome. Make sure you guys follow me on my way to victory at Tony Ferguson XT. We'll see you guys at UFC 209.
Hi, this is Conor Nelson, and you're listening to Submission Radio.
All right, guys. Joining us here on the program is one of the best MMA analysts in the game. He is well respected, brings a ton of energy, and more importantly, the creator of the Sap Alvarez scale. You can see him on the Fight Network and on UFC.com. It's a pleasure to welcome back Robin Black to Submission Radio. Robin, how's it going?
Good, guys. It really is always fun hanging out with you guys. I always really do enjoy it.
Oh, well, we enjoyed it a lot, Robin. And I mean, it's so much fun having you back on. It feels like it's been ages in between UFC pay-per-views, and UFC 208 is coming up this weekend. So we wanted to pick your brain and get your thoughts on some of the upcoming fights. It's a card that has a few interesting matchups that fans are looking forward to. And we just want to touch on Jacare versus Tim Boetsch to begin with. I mean, fans believe this will be a one-sided win for Jacare. However, Tim's power is always dangerous. What do you think will be the key in this matchup?
Well, I think a couple of years ago, it would have rolled up on the screen or the keys to victory. Get the takedown. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it would have got a Tim Boetsch, stop the takedown.
Yeah.
You know? And as funny as that sounds now, because the next logical question is, well, how? How do I get the takedown, or how do I stop the takedown? And I think that's kind of what it comes down to, right? Like, the newest MMA analyst who's been doing it for 4 hours that you can find and say, hey, you want to come on our show? Steve, the brand new MMA analyst. He'd be like, sure, I'd love to. And you say, so what do you think about this fight? And he's like, well, Jacare is a demon on the ground. You know what I mean? Like what I'm getting at is these broad strokes concepts, these obvious things really are obvious. Jacare on the ground is going to mangle anybody. When you go to the ground with Damian Maia these days, he will dominate you. And to me, that is fascinating. Because why can't most people do it? It's just a level of true mastery. And that's what's amazing about it. But, Jacare can't just assume, well, I'll run in and get a takedown. That dynamic is the biggest one now. Guys are too good. You see what happened. You know how Ronda just got beat up, poor Ronda, coming in, facing Amanda Nunes. Soon as you move forward, you want to get a hold of someone. Same thing with Holly. That is like the most broad strokes example of why you can't just go in and grab somebody anymore. So you have to fight your way through it. You have to fight your way through the space. And so that's where it'll begin. And Jacare in there these days is just really, really good. But he's going to have to deal with Tim Boetsch moving back. And if I'm Boetsch, I'm moving back. You look at how Dan Henderson defeated Boetsch, stepping back and planting on him. When you get laid out that way or you get hurt that way, what guys do, the first thing, they go back and they try to put that little weapon in their arsenal. So if I'm Tim Boetsch, I'm drawing Jacare in and I'm trying to land on him backing up. And one other dynamic, if this was a fight night on a Wednesday night, you'd have that little cage Oh, man, that would suck if you're Tim Boetsch. But on a pay-per-view, you got that huge cage. There's lots more room to go. You don't have to get your back to the fence quite as easily. So, this, like, we've seen a lot of things that are one-sided. Oh, he's going to destroy him. And the realities of MMA make that not so. Would I bet my money on Tim Boetsch? No, that wouldn't be my go-to. But the idea that Jacare is just going to take him to the ground and submit him is not true either.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because obviously the man who currently heads the division in Michael Bisping, nobody picked him to beat Luke Rockhold, and now here he is holding the belt. But let's sort of look at the stakes here for Jacare. I mean, a lot of exciting fights in this division. He's currently ranked third. You've got Luke Rockhold as the number 2, and then Yoel as number 1. What is he sort of fighting for, Jacare, this weekend? And I mean, a lot of people sort of feel like this title is quite elusive as far as he goes. Is there sort of a clear path for him? Do you think, is there someone who stands out as far as who he should face next, assuming he wins?
Yeah, like, what is the deal? Even let's take into account all of the realities that we know are true. Like, we could pretend the rankings are fair and the guy who deserves it most gets, but we know that's not true. We know that, how well the audience likes you and how many, how much revenue can be generated by you fighting. All of those things is an aspect to it. But even taking all that into account, like, what's the fucking deal? Like, why is Jacare such a talented guy? Everybody likes him. It's not like he is some unknown. He is this magical creature. Why? And the last fight he lost was Yoel Romero, which most people, I thought he'd won 2 of those rounds. If he did, he wouldn't have lost forever. Like, why is it he doesn't seem to get the important fights? And when he does, it's like, it doesn't seem to matter. You go in and do a great job when you've got Vitor. Your job is to get in there and annihilate Vitor in whatever way possible. And he did it in ways that people didn't expect, and still no love. And all of a sudden, it's like, you've got Rockhold, you've got Jacare, you've got Weidman, you've got Bisping, all of these guys, and none of them are fighting Jacare. I don't know why he gets such a raw deal. I really don't. If you're Jacare, it's the same fucking thing every time. You're going into a fight, and people are saying, well, you're expected to kill this guy. You're expected to annihilate him. You go in and do exactly that, and it doesn't seem like enough. And that really, I don't know, man. Like Damian Maia, same kind of deal. 1 second, Damian Maia will be the guy getting a pay-per-view points and trying to get a belt. And the next second, he's not. It's not like these guys aren't tremendously exciting jiu-jitsu guys. So I don't know what the story is.
Well, I'm going to throw something out there. Do you think in some ways it comes down to marketability in terms, and I'm not, this is obviously nothing against Jacare because he's a phenomenal fighter and he goes in, he just destroys guys and mangles them. But do you think it's a case of the UFC saying, all right, well, you've got this guy who's a great fighter, but then you've got a guy like Michael Bisping, and I mean, he makes so much noise, he speaks so much. You've got a guy like Luke Rockhold, similar situation, or at least he speaks English. And in the case of Maia and Jacare, they may not connect with fans in the pay-per-view markets, which I think there's only really 4 markets in the world for pay-per-view, and they're all English-speaking. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
Yeah, maybe so. And when we're taking these aspects into account, in Brazil, these guys fight on television. So that television deal is already a done deal from a financial standpoint. It's done. So you get paid when these guys go on TV. You don't get anything extra when they fight. Yeah, I don't know. That it really is a shame, but these are the realities that we live in. I think the number 1 should fight the number 2, and then whoever's the next best guy should fight that one. But I know that's not the reality. I know that's not true. I also think there's an element there. You get sort of addicted to promotion, and promotion, marketing has less and less value every minute of every day. And this is an odd one that I don't think people clue into. I don't think they see the truth of it. They're walking through the world ignoring 99.999% of all marketing that doesn't speak to them. So we're UFC fans. We're like, oh my God, they should market, whoever. They should spend the money, or they should get the push, this nebulous push. That's all bullshit. Because what we're talking about is trying to attract the attention of people who most of the time don't care about fighting. So you are going to walk through the world for the next 10 days, and people are going to, you don't care much. Let's pretend you don't care about movies, you don't care about football, you don't care about video games, and you don't care about cooking shows. It doesn't matter what any of these companies spend or what things they do or how they market what. You're going to ignore it all. The only ones that'll break through to you are ones with some type of elusive star power. And that's why Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor and all these different ones crack through that, because it's not like, Jacare just doesn't get the push that we often talk about. There is no push. There is no value in spending $1 million marketing something to people who don't give a shit about it. Do you know what I mean? There's so much noise in the world. You ignore, and everybody listening to this ignores 99.999% of all marketing that comes their way. They ignore it. And yet, for some reason, they think the thing that they care about, which in my case, in our case here, is fighting, if we just spent a little more money on that, people would dig it. People are ignoring all marketing. So somehow this, and you hit onto something with English speaking, but somehow the ability to cut through the noise of things other than fighting, that takes someone very, very special. It takes something extra special. I don't know what it is. I don't know why Ronda has it, but some other female fighter doesn't. But I'll tell you, it isn't the amount of money that was spent, because you could spend all that money on Valerina Shevchenko and they wouldn't do the business. And that's the truth. And that's not a fighting truth. That's a marketing truth. And marketing is bullshit. Marketers ruin everything. This guy, I watch his YouTube videos. He's like, marketers ruin everything. Take anything good, then give it to marketers for 8 years and they wreck it,
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy world out there in marketing. And I think a lot of it has to do with people being able to relate to the story or sort of see themselves in these guys like a Ronda Rousey or a Conor McGregor, or recognize the struggle or the sort of the movie style story that they're having that we're used to seeing in the Hollywood films that sort of draws them into it. But let's talk about another superstar from Brazil that's on the card, Anderson Silva. He's fighting Derek Brunson, and a lot of fans are wondering why this fight came together. But rankings-wise, I guess it makes some sense. Brunson has gotten some big wins with rushing forward and throwing punches, but he also lost his last fight in Melbourne, where he tried to rush the pace with Whittaker and paid the price for it. What kind of Brunson do you expect to see in this fight after his performance in Melbourne?
When you look at the Whittaker fight, Anderson Silva will look at that fight and he'll be like, this whole push and pull and draw and counter and movement and all this stuff, I invented that shit. You know what I mean? That's what Anderson Silva will be thinking right now. And it's true. You look at those wins that Brunson had, he's laying out really good fighters. But if you come forward, I mean, Stipe has done it repeatedly at heavyweight, never mind the lighter weight guys. You come forward too aggressively. The main adaptation in fighting over the last few years, and a lot of it was in response to really the greats like Aldo and Barao and Dos Anjos, and Verdum for that matter. All of them happen to be Brazilian, but and there may be a cultural element to it, but I believe that's more of a coincidence between Master Cordero, who was training Dos Anjos and Verdum, and then the guys down at Novo Unao who were training Dede Pederneiras, who was training Aldo and Barao. But they developed this pressure game into a game that was winning. And they were all champs. They were all champs driving you forward. When you answered early in the fight, they would stand up to you knowing that they were going to get hurt a bit, but it would pay off later in the fight. By moving you back, you can't really check leg kicks while retreating hard. It takes away, they developed this game that was winning titles. And so everybody else, it didn't take long for people to look and go, this pressure game, man, how do we beat it? And some other people thought, well, we'll pressure. And then you saw a lot of knockouts as two pressure guys drove into each other. So the game itself adapted. Holly Holm and Ronda is one simple broad strokes example again. It adapted. And so now if you are just going to be hyper aggressive, you're going to run the risk of getting knocked out. That's what happened to Brunson last time. So dynamically, fight-wise, it is interesting. It really is. And then the why of the fight itself, you're Anderson Silva and you're like, I want to fight. And they're like, what about this guy? And you're like, I don't care. Who do you have available in the top 10 of my weight division? I want to fight him. And I really think it's as simple as that. Now, on the other hand, how many BJ and Yair Rodriguez is, and there's many other examples, how many of these do we have to see until we're like, there's a new evolution of guy here, especially if guys slow down? Well, we'll see. I used to be an Anderson Silva troll, but now...
You were famous for it.
Yeah, I don't know. oddly amusing to look at the greatest fighter in the world and go, nah. You know, it was ridiculous. And since as an adult, even though I was in my 30s at the time, but as an actual adult, I've grown to think that that's silly of me or anybody to play those games. But now I look at him in his 40s and I appreciate his greatness, and you appreciate that he should be. You also don't think about it when you're joking or playing those kinds of games. You don't realize that it's so easy for people to forget about the greats, that they should be celebrated. They should be, talked about. That's why I commit myself so much now to taking greats that are underappreciated, like, Cub Swanson a few years back, or Jorge Masvidal, and really try to make sure that people see how brilliant they are. I know you guys got Tony on today. Tony's another one of those guys, man. I can't wait to, I'm working early. I'm working at home, the Randamie right now. I'm shooting it tomorrow, and then it's straight into Tony and Khabib, and that's going to be a real thrill, a real pleasure to do.
Oh, yeah, that's a mouth-watering fight right there. I wanted to ask you just sort of on Anderson. He's in this weird stage of his career, and I wanted to sort of get your take on it because, he hasn't had much luck in the last few years. I mean, ever since that first Weidman fight, things haven't gone his way. What is he sort of fighting for here, and where do you see his career? Obviously, he wants another shot at Bisping. He had a close fight with him for the belt, so that seems like it could kind of make sense, but there are other contenders ahead of him, and people sort of finding on this Brunson fight. If he does win this fight, are there any other tantalizing matchups that you sort of see as next, and what he's actually fighting for here?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, the upside when you see a fight like this is Anderson Silva is rich and famous. Anderson Silva doesn't need money, and he doesn't presumably need attention. And he's 41 years old. And the good of that is that means this guy's just like, I miss it. I miss fighting. But you're right. When the last win that you've had, is Chael Sonnen in 2012. You don't really need to include Stephan Bonner in 2012, although that's maybe unfair. But I mean, we're talking about 5 years, and it has been a long time. So you have to ask yourself, honestly, what does this mean? 5 losses in 5 years. Does it mean you're washed up? Well, Daniel Cormier, your last loss is the light heavyweight champion of the world, and the loss before that, both of those decisions, the middleweight champion of the world.
Yeah.
Nick Diaz, no contest, and Weidman, who was the middleweight champion of the world. So there's an argument still when you're trying to make the argument for a 41-year-old legend. You go, hey, man, you were in there with the best in the world. But then the argument on the other side is somebody can look at you and say, and it's hard to make an argument for them. And they can say, look, man, the guy hasn't really got a win in 5+ years. And it's hard to argue that fact. So you hope that, and then, in some of these, Michael, if you're going to look down at Anderson's career and wonder even what more could he have even done, a legend like that, you wonder if on some nights when you talk about him inventing things, the flim-flam, Conor McGregor's flim-flam. Anderson Silva was playing the flim-flam game, when Conor McGregor was still, learning to wrap his hands. But there was a time where it stopped working. It stopped doing what it meant to do, and he'd push it even harder. And you wonder if Anderson Silva went out and said, look, I'm just going to go fight this guy. My jab and my low kick are so much better than anything he can deal with. Where I move and how hard I am to hit, I'm going to use my left hand and my right foot, and it would probably be incredible. But because he's attached his own identity to guys like Roy Jones, who he admires, and his own identity to him being a performer of that nature, you don't know if maybe that harms him at 41 years old. It harmed Roy, So hard to say. I mean, I'm cheering for Anderson now. I'm cheering for him for all the times I joked that he wasn't really the best in the world. And Stephan Bonner will shock the world at UFC 153 with I feel bad about it. I'm cheering for Anderson. But would I be surprised to see what I saw in the BJ Penn performance? I really wouldn't be that surprised, but I'm hoping I don't see that.
It's going to be interesting. And the other big fight, of course, is the main event. I mean, with Cyborg's absence, and you mentioned you're doing the breakdown for this. We can't wait to watch it. But Holm and Randamie is set to be a very, very interesting fight to see who is going to become the first ever UFC featherweight champion in the women's division. Now, Holly is in a 2-fight slide, while Jermaine has been able to win her last 2 fights. With Holly's mental game Do you think that's going to be a big factor going into this fight? And do you sort of see her with her back against the wall and sort of a lot of pressure on her to sort of win that big prize?
It's a legitimate factor. There's no doubt about it. She will do her best if she addresses it early and throughout as a legitimate factor. This is real. And talked with people about it, talked with her coaches about it, dealt with it, literally put it out on the table. This is pressure. This is real. In my fight, particularly, see the thing with the Misha fight. You go back and you watch that fight. She fought a beautiful, brilliant fight. It really was brilliant, and it's one of those ones where it was Misha be truly touching the sun level of greatness to win that and put Holly out. You know what I mean? It wasn't, Holly didn't even make really a mental miscue. She fought it and fought it and fought it and fought it. And it was 95 out of 100% of it was a credit to Misha and very little error on any part for Holly. So that's something real. But then in the fight with Shevchenko, she went on a mental psychological downward spiral. She performed worse as the fight went on because she was mad at herself, or she was gripping too hard, or she was gritting her teeth too hard, or gripping on the steering wheel too hard. Whatever you want to put it, you see it in a lot of sports where a team gets scored on and then floodgates open. They just lose control of themselves. Their self-control goes out the window. And that happened to Holly in that fight. And you have to address that. You have to deal with that reality. You have to face it head on and say, what happened? Why did it happen? And what action can I take to try to make that never happen again? So that's a real factor. But then let's say that she addresses that, and I'm sure she will. Now we have a really, really tough fight for both of them. But I think that one of the toughest fights that Holly could face. Shevchenko was also a southpaw. So her go-to game, Holly's go-to game, the things that worked on everybody, the things that always worked, things that worked on Misha, they weren't there, not in the same way. You don't have that same dynamic of the two open sides, and the two power sides to play off each other. And that will be back with Randamie. But Randamie's also extraordinarily good on the feet. So I think if I'm Holly Holm, I'm going into this one and really trying to engage Randamie in all the other areas. Holly Holm took down Ronda Rousey. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Holly Holm is people will make certain assumptions about both of their abilities to grapple and wrestle. And I think we shouldn't make those assumptions. Holm has been training in a mixed martial arts environment for a long, long, long time, and you do it by with the goal of keeping some things in your back pocket that you're going to use, and this would be the time to use them. It really is a beautiful fight, though. The more I look at the footage, the more nervous I get for them because it's going to be a car accident.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating. And I'm curious to sort of expand on what you just mentioned, because obviously Holm is a decorated boxer. She's done kickboxing before, but boxing-wise, she's very, very decorated, previous world champion. And Randamie, a decorated kickboxer, Muay Thai fighter, world champion in that regard. Do you think this fight plays out on the feet, or do you think Holly Holm sort of tries to take this to the ground? Because like you mentioned, she's been in the MMA game for a while now, and Randamie has lost 2 submissions before. It may be a newer world to her.
Yeah, and that's where it gets really interesting. And it's Tony and Khabib has similar elements in that even if you want to pass through to get a hold of somebody deep, so that you can either take them down or work in there, you have to pass through this really dangerous area. When you pass through Tony's danger area, he starts going for your neck in ways that are less familiar. When you pass to Randamie's, you pass through this brutal Muay Thai clinch and a number of different clinches. She works sort of an over-under clinch, and she works kind of a modified collar tie with an underhook. She does a lot of really, really cool things in that range. So if I want to get you to the ground, I have to pass through that danger zone. So how Holly addresses that is going to be a fascinating dynamic. And if she doesn't like what's happening in there, then you must fight outside. You must fight on the feet. When I look at Randamie, she got taken down by the champ and beaten up on the ground. Amanda Nunes beat her up on the ground. And she got taken down, I believe, I could be wrong about this. Sometimes your mind plays tricks on you, but off a kick. Mm. And I haven't seen her throw a lot of kicks ever since. Now, that could be a coincidence. this is not, correlation is not necessarily causation. So that may not, you see a lot of front kicks, but you don't see a lot of round kicks. You don't see a lot of kicks to the body from de Randamie. If that's so, and it may not be so in this dynamic, but then she's going to box a boxer. So there's a ton of really fascinating things between the two of them. She's also really long like Holly. Holly's used to having a reach advantage, and the real 1-2 punch in advantages, and this is for bettors too, for people who are crazy enough to bet on fighting, when somebody has a large reach advantage and they're a southpaw against an orthodox, that combination is really, really, it's a winning combination, mathematically speaking. But Holly doesn't have the reach advantage this time, and the southpaw game that she plays is against somebody with a much higher ability to navigate that. So it's a really hard fight for her. Before I watched the tape, I was leaning a lot more cleanly to Holly Holm, whereas now that I've watched the tape, she needs to be on her game, like to really be able to go in there and hurt de Randamie or try to win 3 rounds from her. She has to be at her very, very best. And that brings you right back to that psychological question you asked earlier. Will she be, or will the pressure affect her? So it is fascinating on all fronts.
And I like that line that, if de Randamie doesn't throw kicks, she's essentially boxing a boxer. That's very smart. And the thing is, obviously, if you're mentioning it, then there's a very good chance that Coach Wink has also seen that flaw in de Randamie. But and I think in general, this fight, if you take away the drama with Cyborg, if you take away the whole weirdness of this being, a 145-pound title fight, it is a really, really good fight on paper. But we got to get your thoughts. Last question, and then we'll let you go, Robin. Obviously, the shadow of Cyborg looms heavily over this fight and this card. It's still a mystery as to when Cyborg will be allowed to get back in there. I mean, without her, what happens next is kind of a mystery. Do you have any concerns about the future of the featherweight division? If Chris can't do it, is there a name that pops to your mind that could potentially be the first title defense for either girls? How are you looking at this, brand new, the division that no one really knows anything about?
Yeah, this could be one of those scenarios where there are 3 greats. And one of them, if they're failing a drug test or they can't make the weight or there's other issues, I mean, I can't remember what's up with Cyborg. I know that she just, wasn't ready to fight, and there were some issues. But was there a drug test in the last 6 months? I know she
got flagged, and I believe it was on 2 occasions. So she's got a bit of a battle, and a lot of people are saying that, while a lot of UFC fighters like John Jones, Brock Lesnar, they sort of get shorter suspensions, she might be facing 2 years. So we may see a brand new division built around her without her.
Yeah, which would be weird because there are 2 women in the world, when I look at their footage, who should be fighting Cyborg, who are in her league to go in and fight, and these are the 2. And in theory, we have de Randamie versus Holly and de Randamie versus Cyborg, and we have Cyborg versus Holly. You have 4 great fights that kind of come between these 3 fighters. But you take one of them out of the thing and you have 1 great fight and potentially a rematch. So I don't even know who out there, when I scan, the 145, and we call, Ramdeen and I call some 145-pound women fights from Japan and from different areas, I don't know really, or is there anybody on the 135-pound roster that just cuts way too much weight? Not really. So you have the 2. And in this case, one other thing I would add is both of these women were the 2 biggest 35ers. So they may even perform better at this weight. They may perform better. There was no 45 division. So now we get the 2 best true 45ers in the world at a better weight for them, fighting at the highest level. You kind of need Cyborg, but where are we at with drug testing? Are we as a culture like, well, if it's just a little bit, we're okay with it, and we really like Cyborg, so hopefully, or are we at a point where we're just like, look, there's an outlined set of rules and structures now that make it even for everybody, and if you can't pass in these situations and it's repeated, I mean, is it a surprise to any of us? Some of the people who do fail, it's just, I don't know. It's sad. It really is. The truth is, this is a conversation for another day. But for a lot of these athletes, and Cyborg could easily be one of them. Not saying she is, but she could be. For a lot of them, there was a Wild West environment where they could do what they thought they needed to do, and some of them did do it because they thought their opponents were doing it. The difference is their bodies become reliant. Their endocrine systems get damaged. and then they become reliant on some of these things. And when you force them to take nothing, they can't function, which is almost like Vitor when he was on TRT. If he couldn't really function without TRT, how's he functioning now? You know what I mean? So they start to find, some of these athletes have to find ways to fudge it just to be average, just to be physically, on a hormonal level to be average people. And that is a damage caused by the environment that fighting was in 5 and 10 years ago.
It's a crazy, crazy environment, Robin. Thank you so much for coming into the program. Obviously, people are excited to see your breakdown for the UFC 208 main event and the Tony Ferguson Khabib one. I can't wait to see that. You guys can follow Robin on Twitter at Robin Black MMA. Thank you so much for coming onto the program, Robin. It's always a pleasure having you.
Well, thanks, guys. We'll catch up soon.
For sure. Thanks,
Take care, Robin. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. You too.
And there he is, guys. Robin Black, the one and only. I already can't wait to get him back on the show, mainly because there was so many other things that I wanted to speak to Robin Black about, or so many things that I want to sort of dig through and digest. But obviously, we do have a limited amount of time. The man has a life and can't spend his entire life on Submission Radio. One of the things that I thought was quite interesting that he brought up was about Anderson Silva's last few losses, or actually the last 5 years of losses, which obviously were the 2 Weidman fights, the Michael Bisping fight, the Daniel Cormier fight, the Nick Diaz fight. And I feel like something that kind of highlighted for me was how interesting and important this fight is for Anderson against Derek Brunson, because this is the first fight for a while where if he does lose, there really isn't much of an excuse. I mean, obviously Derek Brunson is a good fighter. He's a great fighter. A lot of people were expecting him to be the future of the division. He stumbled against Robert Whittaker, so maybe it's not fair to discount him, but I guess in a sense, like, you can look at the Weidman fights and the Bisping fights and the Cormier fights, and there was always sort of a shadow or a slither of an excuse that these guys are former champions or current champions. You know, Michael Bisping is the current champion. But if he loses to Derek Brunson, I think that's kind of telling of where he stands in the division, because we haven't really seen that kind of test, for Anderson for a long time. That Cormier fight was essentially ridiculous. I mean, what do you learn from that? And we had that opportunity with Uriah Hall at UFC 198, and that never ended up happening. That didn't pan through. So I'm actually a lot more interested in this Anderson Silva fight than I was before.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, because the Cormier fight, to me, from a PR perspective for Anderson, it made a lot of sense, because I felt like before he came in and did it, a lot of people were still pretty shitty with him about what happened with the sex pills or whatever and all the stuff that's been going on. And then when he came in, instantly, bang, everybody loves Anderson, and that sort of carried through to now. This, again, I from a rankings perspective, I guess it makes some sort of sense, but to me, this really was a bit of a gamble from the UFC, because Brunson's coming off a loss against Robert Whittaker just recently, and I think a lot of people still have that in their mind. And like you mentioned, if he loses this fight, and he is, I mean, there's no beating around the bush. He is one of the last sort of bigger name guys the UFC have. If he loses this, then it's a lot harder to promote his next fight. And the UFC really needs him right now when they don't really have many stars. So, and then if he beats Brunson, well, Robert Whittaker beat Brunson at UFC Melbourne. So it's one of those things where he's not, like you mentioned, gaining that much from it, and the risks are big. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me in the sense that I think they just wanted to save UFC 208 and they needed a fight to throw on there, and maybe Brunson was the only one that was happy to fight Anderson. And I think he's very, very lucky to be in this position, because if he wins, he gets a lot from this. But at the same time, yeah, it's a big, big risk. So we'll see what happens there. Also, what do you think about if Randamie beats Holm, Cass? Because this is the other thing I was thinking. Do you think the UFC is sort of hoping Holm is the one that walks away as the champion here, to sort of have someone that's at least been around the block? People know her name. She was sort of in mainstream media for a while. She beat Ronda Rousey. To have her as the champion, do you think there's a bit riding on her possibly winning at UFC 208, so the UFC sort of have someone with a bigger name as the featherweight champion?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, Holly Holm was always kind of in discussion for the other super fights, like the Cyborg fight. You know, Cyborg versus Holly Holm, that's exciting. Don't know if that's going to happen, but, you know, even if that didn't happen, they had Holly Holm versus Ronda Rousey. So Randamie, while she absolutely deserves to be here, and I think she has a very real chance of beating Holly Holm, in some ways she was kind of the dance partner. She was sort of the afterthought, I think, from the UFC's perspective. When we see Holly Holm, she's still riding the wave of momentum and, I guess, fame and celebrity that she gained from beating Ronda Rousey. She's still known as the girl who beat Ronda Rousey, and it's been over a year now. So if she does lose, then the UFC have a lot more work in front of them and on their hands to sort of build up Randamie. They're essentially starting from scratch because, I mean, truth is, and this is completely having nothing to do with her fighting skills or style or her merit, but nobody really knows who Randamie is. So it'll be almost like an Amanda Nunes situation where, again, Amanda Nunes was kind of an afterthought. They were hoping for Holm to win and then Misha to win, and then in comes Nunes and just kind of puts a massive wrench in everybody's plans, and they had to take a good 6 months or so to really build things up for the Ronda fight, and they're still trying to build up Amanda Nunes. So, and I mean, she's doing well now. She's doing fine. The good thing about Randamie is she speaks well and she's got a good personality. She's not really a trash talker, but anytime I do see her on the mic, I like what she brings. So this could be a really big opportunity for her to, I guess, take that next step into the limelight. But I'm very curious what happens here.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And it does feel like ages since we've had a UFC pay-per-view. I think last year we were all very, very lucky to have the year that we did. And it seems like ages that, fans have had a fight card they could really bite their teeth into. And even though people are sort of complaining about this card not being what it could have been or what they sort of expect, there's still a lot of tantalizing matchups on this one. So I'll be excited to watch it. And I think if Holm wins, maybe that even helps Nunes a little bit. People start talking about what happens when Holm and Nunes meets, and maybe like champion versus champion. Who knows? That could be something UFC uses. But Randamie's a fresh face, and she speaks English. So, man, I reckon it's going to be a great card. So everybody listening right now, look, we encourage you, go to your local pub or get the event, check it out, see some of the up-and-coming guys and girls, and also check out what happens to a legend, to the featherweight title. There's a lot of stuff at stake, and even this Jacare Timbosh fight. I'm excited to see Jacare back there. We saw him trying to make weight there in New York and not get a fight, so it's nice to see him sort of back in the swing of things. But man, it's been another great week of Submission Radio, hasn't it, Cass? I mean, pretty crazy. Some people writing to us, enjoying some of the lineups. I'm really happy with the lineup this week. Very happy that we had Tony on the program, Ryan Bader at this time, TJ Dillashaw at this time. He's super busy at the Tough House, and we can't thank him enough for being on the program. Robin Black's always busy. And, of course, Dan Kelly, who has, I mean, there's no doubt about it, the biggest fight of his life coming up at UFC 209. I'm very happy to have all these guys on the program this week.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a blast. I mean, you pretty much covered it all. Before we let you go, Dennis, I believe, as has been customary, you went out, saw some movies, got some thoughts on them. Would I be correct in my assumption?
Yeah, sometimes, Casper, and fans listening at home, I get a bit bored, and movies are a way for me to chill out, relax, and sometimes I see all the movies that are out in the cinemas because I love it so much.
Even the shit ones. You don't discriminate.
I don't discriminate, and I've seen some really, really terrible movies and even looked at the reviews beforehand knowing what I was getting myself into. So I don't even know if I can blame the movies for the horrible experiences that I've had. And this week I had a horrible experience and I had an enjoyable experience. I'll start with a horrible experience first, if you'd like me to, Cass.
Oh, sure. I live for those horrible experiences. Tell everybody how you tortured yourself this time.
Well, I had a little bit of downtime on my hands, and I've been sick all week long. It means I can't go to the gym. I can't do what I usually do. I like to go get beat up in boxing and submitted in jiu-jitsu. I wasn't able to do that. So I decided to go up to – I'd torture myself a new way. I go up to the local shopping center and catch whatever movie's on in the afternoon because I had the day off. And Triple X3 was in the cinema. Would you believe, Casper? We've spoken to Michael Bisping before and interviewed his coach many a time. So I thought, hey, there's a connection there. There's a serious connection there. I'll go check it out. And, and this is the absolute truth. I went in there knowing it's going to be a terrible movie. I didn't expect it to be good at all, but what I expected was, hey, at least this will be interesting enough for me to sort of sit through and enjoy my popcorn and some of the sneaky treats that I snuck in. But, in fact, Casper, I will go on record as to say that this has been the first movie that I've actually walked out of in the last, I think, 8-9 years.
Wow.
And I've seen some terrible movies.
Oh, look, you mean walked out before it finished?
I walked out halfway through the movie.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that. I don't like people that do that. But the movie just made absolutely no sense whatsoever. And it came to a thing where I thought, hey, I could spend the rest of my day off here watching this movie, which is absolutely terrible, or I could go home and fire up the PlayStation for it and try and get in a couple of hours before the girlfriend comes home and starts trying to destroy my life. So I chose the latter. I went up, I played some PlayStation 4, walked out sort of over halfway into the movie. I really wanted to give it a chance to sort of capture me. It didn't. I was happy to see Michael Bisping with a role. He was actually in the credits at the start of the movie, which is very impressive.
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't been acting for very, very long, and he actually did very well for the role that he had. And I think he has a bright future in acting if he pursues it. But it's just the script, the writing, Vin Diesel and his disgusting old leathery body. It wasn't, and the terrible tattoos that you had to look at. I thought I was watching MMA circa early 2004. So it was difficult. It was difficult for me to connect to it, and I would probably put it close to like an Expendables movie, but even probably a little bit worse. And I actually enjoyed the first Triple X movie, which is the thing. And there was a second one with Ice Cube, which
terrible.
Terrible, but I actually sat through that in the cinemas, as I recall. So anyway, that gets no Timothy Johnson mustaches out of 5. No, none at all. So
I was just curious. I got to ask: was there a lot of sunglasses wearing indoor action? Was there a lot of that going on? Vin Diesel's
I could definitely see why he didn't recognize Demetrius Johnson when the guy can barely recognize how to be a good actor. But I will say that maybe the fact that his best acting is playing Groot and Galaxies of Guardians of the Galaxy is an indicator that maybe if you keep him to saying the same line over and over, he might eventually get good enough to actually pull it off. But I mean, the new Fast and the Furious is coming up, and I do enjoy those movies, so we'll see what happens.
I saw the trailer for that. Gosh. Holy shit. You've seen the trailer, right? Where Vin Diesel turns on everyone. The guy who was meant to be heading the family is now the bad guy. He's the lead protagonist. Holy shit. That's going to be a shit fest.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you just wonder, can we all just get on the same page and stop watching it so he stops making them? But it's one of those things where you can't look away and you look into it and it's sort of, a part of you does. I mean, the first movie was so great and Tokyo Drift was all right, and they had that one with the first one with The Rock that I enjoyed. But the whole thing's just ridiculous. Quickly before we wrap up, I'll give you my thoughts on Gold. Now, Gold is actually a movie on Kenny Wells. This is a true story. And Matthew McConaughey, who's actually, I really love Matthew McConaughey, and I even liked him when he used to play those really lame love interests. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I sneakily enjoy watching that movie. All right. Yeah. And going into this movie, actually, Matthew McConaughey put on heaps and heaps of weight. And I mean, he did his best job, but I'm like, hey, that's what you look like when you're fat. That just looks like me trying to be skinny. But anyway, no matter. The guy has great genetics and is in great shape. He actually he went bold for this one, and his family didn't recognize him, and I don't know, his children were like, well, WTF, what's going on? But he really transformed himself for this movie. It's a true story. It really got a lot of hate cast from Rotten Tomatoes. Got 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.5 IMDb. And to me, I actually thought this movie was underrated. I actually really enjoyed it. I really thought this was, if you're a fan of Matthew McConaughey and you enjoy seeing him do his work and he really invested a lot in this role, I really suggest you guys check this out. Now, I don't know if you want to spend your hard-earned money on the cinemas, maybe wait till it comes out on DVD, Blu-ray, or watch it other ways if you can. But the thing about it is, this is a true story, and there is a genuine crazy twist at the end. And you do walk away sort of fulfilled with it. It's a little bit predictable, but you don't see what happens at the end. The twist is legit, and it will sort of surprise you and shock you. So I definitely give this one 3 out of 5 Timothy Johnson mustaches. I actually had a good time watching it. I know a lot of people don't like it. Maybe Matthew McConaughey doesn't always sort of come across as the most likable person, but I actually think he did a great job in this one. And for all those movies that he makes, like Interstellar, which are great movies, but are sort of draining mentally for you, or I think it was Dallas Buyers Club, where he did a great job, obviously, in that movie. For all those movies, this is sort of more of a Wolf of Wall Street, have fun, check it out. A guy rises and really enjoys the fruits of his labor, and then there's a crazy twist at the end type movie. So I really think people will enjoy it. If you got some downtime and the movies around, definitely don't shy away from it. Give it a go, because I think it's sort of disappearing a little bit. People aren't really watching it. It'll probably disappear into the DVD section of JB Hi-Fi, and before it does, if you have the time, check it out.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I didn't even know it was out. I didn't know anything about it until just now. But you've sold me. You've single-handedly sold me. And I know you're a really, really harsh critic. I actually love listening to your harsh movie reviews and movies and directors just get the shits thrown at them. But I like what you're putting out there, and I'm actually going to check it out. Maybe not in the cinemas, but I might wait till I can download it on my computer and then watch it on a long, lonely night. But on that note, that is another episode of Submission Radio in the bag. We really and truly hope that you've enjoyed it. A massive thank you again to Tony Ferguson, to TJ Dillashaw, to Ryan Bader, to Dan Kelly, and of course the always lovely Robin Black. And the biggest thank you of all to you guys listening right now. Hit us up in the comments section below if you're checking it out on YouTube, or tweet us on Twitter at SubmissionAUS. Let us know all your thoughts on pretty much everything, on everything you heard in the show today, on everything regarding UFC 208. Are you excited? Will you be checking it out? Will you be getting the pay-per-view? What are you looking forward to the most? And we will be back next week to talk about UFC 208 and a whole bunch of other things on Wednesday in America or Thursday here in Australia. Till then, be safe.